When people ask me what's the most important thing about Fora, they say it's got to be the technology, but actually it's the community that you really cannot replicate. So the community has all this shared wisdom. Advisors are talking in WhatsApp groups. It's very temporal. This kind of stuff doesn't exist on the internet, but it exists in our community. So how do we make this available to other people in our community at scale?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a live recording of Travel Trends in downtown New York City. I'm here at Fora's headquarters, and we're going to be speaking to my good friend and colleague, Jake Peters, the co-founder and Chief Product and Technology Officer at Fora. Now, I just came into the office today to meet him and to see the new office, and also got a chance to meet his two co-founders. I have the greatest respect for both of these individuals, but I had not met them before. So just moments ago, I had the chance to meet Evan Frank, who many people in the travel industry know from his very successful startups, both Context Travel and Just Fine Stay. And I also got a chance to meet Henley Vasquez as well, who is the founder of Passported. And very interesting, as you'll hear in this conversation, Jake, Henley, and Evan all graduated university right at the same time. They're literally right around the same age. And they have built this company over the last 4.5 years. And Fora, for anyone who is not familiar, they are one of the most exciting success stories in the travel industry today. They are known as the modern travel agency, which is exactly what you see as you walk into the office. And they have grown at an incredible pace over the last 4.5 years. They have just recently raised more than $60 million in their Series C, and that's based on doing $1.5 billion in gross sales in 2025. Just extraordinary. So we'll talk about that in this episode. And they now support more than 11,000 Fora travel advisors around the world. And here we are in New York City. Their office is right near the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge, right in downtown New York, across from City Hall. You can see a beautiful view from here, looking over the park at City Hall at 225 Broadway. And I also had the chance to see a couple of familiar faces when I came in to the office today. Stephanie and Shayna from Legends. They are truly legends of our Travel Trends podcast. They have been on the show multiple times. Both of them have kindly participated in our AI Summit over the last 2 years. Their company that I've highlighted many times on our show as being at the forefront of AI in travel, especially with their work around personalization. Taking data from first your images on your phone, but then also your calendar, and creating a traveler DNA profile. Well, one of the big exciting developments after that Series C raise is that Fora acquired Legends, and Stephanie and Shayna are now part of the team working closely with Jake. So it's wonderful to see good friends and industry colleagues here, and also to see the space, because they've now expanded to a second floor as they continue to hire and recruit fantastic talent to be a part of this journey. And Jake and I are going to discuss a lot of exciting things today. One of them, of course, is going to be AI, because Jake has been a part of our AI Summit as well. Fora was kindly a sponsor of last year's event, and they are very much at the forefront with how technology is changing travel and trying to understand the real and practical role of AI and what the future looks like for travel advisors, and ultimately why humans and hospitality still sit at the center of it all. I know Matthew Upchurch is also a huge fan of Fora. I have many colleagues that are Fora advisors, and I'll talk about a little bit on this episode as well. And so many companies I've had the privilege to work with over the years that are part of the Fora supplier and partner network. So if you are curious about becoming a travel advisor, if you're an investor looking to understand where this industry is headed, if you're a potential partner on the hotel, cruise, tours, or even experiences side, this episode is for you. And for those of you that are skilled engineers with a background in computer science looking for the next great career opportunity, then there's lots of great discussion in here for you as well. You can learn more at foratravel.com, and I highly recommend you checking out the website as we're having this conversation. But let me welcome my good friend, Jake Peters, back to the Travel Trends podcast. Thank you so much, Jake, for inviting me to be here in New York. It's great to see you again. Really looking forward to having you back on the show.
Thanks, Dan. It's great to have you here. We're in Lower Manhattan on Broadway, right near City Hall and the Oculus, Fora's HQ, which is now a two-floor office space with an internal staircase. So I feel like we've hit the big time. We're on the edge of some real winter weather here in January, but the team is busy keeping it warm with all of our energy, releasing stuff and using AI, somewhere.
Well, there's so much for us to talk about in our conversation today because there's been a huge development to the Fora in 2025. Clearly, you guys have been going from strength to strength. You've obviously had the major fundraising round, but obviously that's based on the growth of the business. Coming into the office today, I was delighted to see the rest of the team and have a chance to meet Evan and Henley, and then also to see the team from Legends, Stephanie and Shayna, who've obviously been on our podcast as well. And I know they've come into the business. We're going to talk about that as well, given some of the acquisitions you've done and the focus on AI and personalization. But I want to make sure that everyone understands Fora and your role because, we are great friends and colleagues. We see each other at conferences all the time, even if it's occasionally in passing and you're waving to me while I'm recording. So it's nice to finally have this dedicated time to be able to sit down together and record. But for anyone who doesn't know about Fora Travel and is just getting to know you too, Jake, would you mind giving everyone a bit of an overview of Fora, the company and your role?
Sure. So Fora, we started in 2021. In some sense, we're a host agency. In many ways, we're slightly different. Our goal is to create a platform that allows travel entrepreneurs to build their own businesses as travel advisors. So there's a lot, obviously, to that. We think about it in this framework that Evan penned in his essay in 2021 when we got started, The Better Equation in Travel, which combines advisors, clients, and suppliers to create this really great outcome for people looking to travel. So we think about our, customers in each of those corners of this triangle. The advisors, build their businesses on our platform. They serve clients, but we also have some work to make sure that clients have a great experience. And then we're also a distribution platform for our supplier partners, hotels, cruises, activities, transportation, et cetera, et cetera. And so we serve all of these corners of this triangle to create these amazing outcomes.
Well, tell us a little bit about the team that came together to create Fora, because there's 3 founders. And obviously I just mentioned Evan and Henley and yourself. You and I have obviously gotten to know each other extremely well. And I have a great respect for your background and technical expertise. So it's great to have, the CTO and co-founder to have this discussion, since this company is very much a technology company and focus on engineering, and seeing the space today. The fact you've expanded to 2 floors, you've got 2 incredible floors here in New York City. Seeing the office environment, the culture, the buzz around the place. And it's very clear that you guys are building something really special here. But tell us a little bit about the co-founders and how this business got started.
Evan and I met in 2009 in London on Sunday night at a Thanksgiving dinner at his apartment. We were both living in London, and this was the 4th Thanksgiving dinner of that weekend. We actually have a photo in which you could see the back of my head from his living room. And then we both moved back to Lower Manhattan. Actually, I lived just around the corner from here, and he did as well in 2011, 2012. And we used to meet up and have breakfast at diners in the neighborhood that are now no longer in existence, as the New York diner culture has kind of faded. And we would, just meet and kind of support each other as founders of other startups. He was in travel at the time. And he moved to the U.S. to build One Fine Stay's U.S. business and eventually take over as the CEO of that business before it sold to Accor. So we spent a lot of time together in that era, and I was building Payperks, a fintech company here in New York. And it's as founders, you sort of deal with stuff that's just unique to the founder world, like people problems and organizational structure issues and investor relations, and it's really hard for someone who's not a founder to sort of understand that. So we built this deep understanding. And Evan and I are very different people in some ways. And so that actually makes our relationship even better because we approach things from a slightly different perspective. So it's 1 + 1 = 3 in that regard. Meanwhile, Evan met Henley because their kids, each one has a kid that was in the same class at the public school in Tribeca. And they were the only 2 parents in travel. And so they, met each other. And then Evan was at One Fine Stay and Henley was a travel advisor. She had graduated and actually was at Indigare doing content, and then built their original bookings team, and then left and built her own, through a series of things, built her own virtuoso travel agency called Passported, and had a few ICs. And she was selling One Fine Stay. And then later when Evan went to Context, she was selling Context tours, which is interesting. So they knew each other both as parents in the classroom, and then also as travel colleagues. And Evan and I in 2021 were at the like sort of a change in cycle. He had left Context and I was at the end of this fintech startup journey, both thinking about what was next. And we had not really had a breakfast for a couple years at that point. And we sort of gathered together again and started talking about different ideas. And none of them were in travel. He and Henley were talking about this idea of, what is the future of the world of travel advising? From his side from his perspective on the supplier side, travel advisors were a great way to distribute inventory, and they brought great clients. Henley had just survived COVID as a travel advisor. Wasn't easy, and was thinking about like, okay, how do I scale? What's next for me? She had been doing this, her whole career, and so they sort of noodled on this idea for Fora, what became Fora. Like, why aren't more people travel advisors? Why is this not the most amazing job? Why are all these people going to become real estate agents and not travel advisors? And so Evan wrote this famous like memo, showed it to some investors, and one of them said, "Okay, I've had this similar idea. Here's money." And this doesn't happen very often in the world of startups. Like it wasn't even an investor deck. It was like just a 20-page memo, which I do agree with Evan that writing your ideas down and kind of refining over and over is a really great way to sort of get to a polished idea. So he and I were talking about other things. I was away for a couple of weeks, came back, and he's like, "I want to tell you about this idea. We'd like you to join me and Henley in doing it. And we already have money." And it turns out that the investor is someone that I went to college with, although I didn't know that it was him at the time. And so we're actually, one funny thing about us is we're all exactly the same age, and we all, plus or minus, in the same year, and we all graduated college in 2001, and the investor went to college with me in 2001. I knew him like both at school and also just by bumping into him in the New York investing scene. This is Brian from Forerunner. And I had not been a part of a kind of situation like this where when you raise money from someone like Forerunner, people just start throwing money at you. So we closed this seed round very quickly and immediately got to building. And so we had Evan, the business person, supplier side travel person, Henley, the travel advisor and kind of role model travel advisor number one for the whole thing. And me, the not coming from travel, although I have many friends that work in hospitality or like very hospitality adjacent. So I'm not unfamiliar with like hotel operations and hotels and this kind of stuff. And, so me, the tech and product guy, and very quickly I was like the CTO, but really Evan and I had this very early discussion. I remember this on a walk outside of our old WeWork. He's like, "I think you're also the CPO." And I was like, "Yes. This is kind of the job that I've had." And in 2021, there weren't so many CPTOs. I still think this is kind of like a little bit of a mouthful, but that's effectively what I am. So the whole engineering, product ops, product design, and if maybe some other things support all sit, on my team. And it's nice. Like we don't have this like, product versus engineering culture. The pods are constructed where everyone builds together.
Yeah. And I just want to highlight too, for all of our listeners, this 4.5-year journey from a very successful startup to the culture that I saw when I walked in the office today, having a chance to speak to Evan and Henley, the fact that you guys are actually sit right next to each other. Evan's got his stand-up desk with his awesome motorized.
The treadmill is not really. There's a new thing, and I'm not sure it's successful. But the microphone, he doesn't sit.
So what I was amazed, like everyone was right there. You guys are sitting right beside each other. Yep. And as soon as I saw you, I got to see Evan and I got to meet Henley, and just the dynamic between the three of you, the fact that you've been on this journey together, you guys clearly have great chemistry. There's a great company culture that clearly exudes from that dynamic that you guys have had. And you've been on this, incredible journey now and had a massive 2025. So I just wanted to highlight when, I got a chance to know Evan, you highlighted obviously his successful background with One Fine Stay and Context Travel, and then Henley as well with Passported, and then yourself, the fact that, with PayPerks, your company was acquired. All three of you are very successful entrepreneurs. So you know what it takes to build a successful business. And, lightning doesn't strike that often, but it clearly has here with Fora, with the three of you coming together. And then just seeing the trajectory from 2025. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, because I think a lot of people would have only found out about Fora in the last year. And so many people, even with this podcast, are going to learn more about Fora and what you guys do. And it's such an unrealized opportunity. Technology, travel advisors. Many of our listeners know it's my background. Like I started 20 years ago in this industry working at Carlson Wagonly, developing tools for travel advisors to be able to use. And even at the time, you said, '01, that whole era of the .com, boom and bust and the rise of OTAs, everyone was predicting the demise of travel agents. And in fact, their roles have flourished. And here we are in 2026 talking about this incredible company that has empowering travel advisors. So let's talk a little bit about 2025. So we fast forward kind of 4 years from that origin story. Let's talk about some of the big highlights from 2025. So what were some of the big takeaways from last year?
Sure. It was, every year we do these end of year recaps, and I was thinking back to what it was, the end of 2024 and what we were working on. And it was to try and write my own. Of course, I have this stuff documented, but I wanted to create the list from scratch of all the things we released just to see if I could remember them. And I had to remember back to some of the things we have now in our platform were built really in December. We launched in December of 2024, which was a year ago when we did our December town hall. And I was like, wow, these things are things that I sort of just are now like sort of part of everyday life, but they're really only a year old. So we built a lot of stuff. We'll get into that. We raised our Series C and we announced it, which was a big deal because we hadn't announced our B from 2 years ago. So, I mean, a lot of people knew in sort of the inside investor world, but I don't think like the world knew. So that was a big deal. And we could talk about how that came together too, because it really came together because the wife of our lead investor is a Fora advisor, which is kind of also like just the perfect story here.
Yeah. I speak to so many people who are Fora advisors that have entered the industry. Even Shayna, who's now obviously joined the team, part of Legends, she was one of the first people that mentioned to me, and she had become a Fora advisor as well. And then Propelic, so one of our main sponsors and good friends of the Travel Trends podcast, Brendan Bliss, who runs the agency Propelic, he had started as a Fora advisor and was booking all of his friends and family travel and cruises. So there is this, but anyone who experiences the platform and starts using it, whether you are a travel advisor or you're going to be new to the industry, they love the platform and the technology. So it's interesting you make that connection that his wife was a travel advisor looking at a Fora advisor, saw the potential, and was like, we need to do more here.
Yeah. I mean, so this is Kareem from Thrive, Kareem Zaki, and we've gone through these 3 or I guess 4 now fundraising cycles, seed, A, B, C, and we've done it before we obviously needed our seed money to get started, but the other ones happened a little bit before we needed money, which is the best time to raise money. And so we've approached this it's never relaxing, but it's like the most relaxing it could be kind of way. It's still not easy, even when it's easy to raise money. And I just remember this meeting with Kareem. He came down, he came into the office and it was late. I remember it being very dark. And it was like March. So it wasn't like midwinter. So must have been late in the day, and Henley was not here. So it was just me and Evan, and the questions weren't, the same normal questions. They wanted to know the story of like how Evan and I knew each other and how the whole thing started. And his wife doesn't, I don't think maybe now she does, but I think we didn't notice that she was on our platform. And we would have noticed this. And so we're like, how do you know so much about what we're doing? And he was like, well, my wife is a Fora advisor. And we're like, oh, that's amazing. So he's like, I've watched you now, and he's seen my product release notes. He's seen what we're doing, what we're building. And it's enabled his wife to build a travel advising business. So he understood the value intrinsically. And I think that makes him, that made it easy for him to become a great partner, and Thrive's obviously an amazing partner to have in from that meeting. Our other investors are also fantastic. We're very, very lucky around, who we have supporting us on our cap table, both with Forerunner, Insight, and Hardcore. And our board is we just had a board meeting this week, is really a nice balance. And I think it's like we're 3 mature founders that sort of knew what we were doing. And so we don't have a lot of drama. And if we do, we sort it out. We're like adults in the room, and our board kind of works with us in the same way, where we just have these like very honest discussions about what we need to be doing and how we could be doing better. So we'll talk about all the product stuff we released. We also, have 11,000 roughly monthly active advisors. We sold over $1.5 billion in travel last year, which is kind of crazy. And when I look at it, even on the individual hotel basis, I'm talking about like, I'm dealing with like a GDS issue, and I try to, when I'm when there's a problem and we're talking to the salespeople of a particular hotel, I try to, weave in like just how much stuff we've sold of a hotel. And, there's certain hotels where we're selling like 1% or 2% of their total room occupancy, which is kind of insane. And so that's also interesting to look at when we look at our data. We have, last year was also really interesting. We have, I think we're trying to do a lot, like bring new people to the industry, but we're also trying to support our advisors in making themselves more efficient and able to grow their businesses in the way they want. And so a really interesting stat from last year is we have a number of people that are selling more than 2 million in a year who've gotten to this point in like really a year and a half, which is like much faster than the traditional person in industry doing that. Our $2 million producers from 2024 grew their business more than 120% in 2025 year over year, which is crazy. So there used to be this threshold where, and Henley could tell you firsthand running her own agency, getting beyond 2 million usually means like hiring a team and thinking about ways you can scale yourself. Well, our tooling and what we've built has enabled these advisors to really push this threshold higher now to 4 million. So we had our first, one of our top advisors, is a $10 million solo advisor basically, and uses our tools to run her entire business. Essentially, she has some help, but essentially herself, which is kind of, I don't think this is heard of in the industry. So it's real valid. It's not like we're just saying this stuff is happening. It's real validation with the numbers. And that, we knew this was there, but it really materialized in 2025.
Well, one of the things when you point to the growth that you've had in doing $1 billion in revenue last year, like that, the reality is this industry is 100 billion plus and growing. And this is, when we look at the next 5 to 10 years, the aging baby boomer population, half have retired, half are retiring in the next 5 years, this whole generational wealth transfer that is going to happen. But before that happens, all of those baby boomers are traveling as much as possible. They're using travel advisors. Younger generation are also embracing travel advisors much more than ever before, even in the face of all this technology. And one of the things, just to set the stage for all of our listeners, because what intrigued me most about Fora was recognizing that there was this important problem to solve where you had OTAs that were charging much higher commissions, like 25%. And a lot of these independent travel advisors could do that at half the cost, but with real kind of passion and expertise. And there is something very special about that human connection, especially when someone's booking a trip that is likely going to be, there's a lot riding on it beyond the cost. And I think most of our audience who are travel advisors know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're speaking to a customer that has saved up for that big holiday, or they are, they have 2 weeks off a year, like many Americans, and they, that trip is that much more important to make sure it goes well because it's the value of their time, not just the money that they're spending on it. So they want to make sure that they're going to have an amazing experience, and they trust their travel advisor. And I know, being at the Virtuoso conference, Matthew Upchurch is a huge fan of Fora, and in understanding that connection too, because he's the guy that coined the term travel advisor over travel agent, because it's very much a profession, not someone that's just an order taker. And in this era of, advanced technology and AI, equipping agents with these tools and knowing that they've embraced the platform is one of the big reasons that I wanted to record this spotlight together and also be here in New York with you to actually understand the culture of the company, which I know I've highlighted a couple of times, but it's one of the things that when you're solving an important problem like this and building, Fora as the modern travel agency, you're solving a very important problem that was, currently very underserved and hampered by outdated systems. And so it was very frustrating for a lot of travel agents to work with their existing partners. And it's why a lot of them have gravitated to the Fora platform, is because they love actually using the technology. And you're obviously the guy that's behind that as the CTO. So just before we talk about some of the big product updates in 2025, and then obviously we want to get into what the plans are for 2026. And I know our listeners, many of them travel agents, travel advisors that are going to be keen to understand that. Just give everyone a bit of an overview, Jake, of the platform itself, the type of products that are available to be sold. Let's make sure that for anyone that is potentially going to listen to this and decide to become a Fora advisor, tell us a little bit more about the platform, what they can come to expect, and why you're seeing people love it so much.
Sure. I think before I say what we do, it's kind of worth just saying for those who don't know, like what you need to be a travel advisor. You don't really need a platform, you can just like we started Fora, we had Google Sheets and access to a list of our preferred partner hotels, and you could go book all these hotels on their own website using your IATA and like special access codes, and you'd have to like search all of them to find the rates. And we need to. There's a huge financial operation around collecting and reconciling and dispersing commissions. Effectively, that's kind of all you need, and then the advisors can sort of manage their own workflow or use like third-party tools that are available to the travel advisor space. So when I looked at this, I said, okay, like I didn't know what I was going to be building, and we said, okay, let's build this portal that people could use to do their work. Okay, what needs to go in the portal? So the first thing was just a secure credit card vault, because as a former fintech founder, I'm looking around and I'm seeing credit card numbers on Post-it notes and in emails, and I'm like, okay, this is not good. So we fixed that, and then it was immediately clear that we needed to build a booking platform, and so we built that. Now that's over 2 years old. 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? One of the last 2 weeks, we booked $17 million in the week through our booking platform. It's kind of cool, which is a huge uptick from what we were doing on a weekly basis last year. So that's kind of fun. We have a long road. We'll talk about like what we're going to do with that next year. That's just hotel, by the way. Then we needed training. So we have this like world-class training program with, I think, nearly 1,000 lessons in our portal that combines training on, how to be a travel advisor. Like, what is this from, day zero of this journey, if you're new to the industry, all the way to advanced topics like how to deal with tricky client situations, how to sell crews, how to work with DMCs, to destination trainings, to supplier trainings. So we have all this stuff in our library. And this year, in 2025, I think one of the big thing that we did was we launched our first advisor enablement workflow tooling that connects advisors to clients. So our itinerary builder, our proposal builder, and our vision for the platform is really to be this one-stop shop where you can manage your entire business all in one together. And a lot of other people in the industry, this is not like, a unique idea. People are also talking about this at other places, like how to reduce the busy work of copying and pasting. But we're an agency, so we have all of this end-to-end, from the workflow tooling to the booking, to the commission reconciliation, to the actual payouts, to the training, to like everything you need to manage your business, and we host it. So we're sort of like this service layer. You want to be an advisor, I can't think of a better place to be. I mean, obviously I'm biased, and I have a lot of respect for many of the other host agencies out there that are doing great things. And in some cases, they do specific things that are better than us. But from a technology perspective, if you want to book a hotel and make an itinerary for your client, I've seen a lot of the tooling. This is, one of the best, if not the best tools. And it's going to get a lot better. So we really pride ourselves in making our advisors efficient and make them, real travel entrepreneurs and the tools that they would expect in the years 2025 and 2026. So we're not talking about what was possible in 2015 or 2001. It's like, what would you expect today? And in many cases, that means we bump into legacy issues, like, to put it nicely, like 2025, one of my main problems from 2025 was battling the GDS, which, we dump a lot on the GDS. It's not necessarily only their fault. They also connect to hotel systems, which are equally bad. And so it's really like the infrastructure of hotels is kind of insane. And you would never tolerate this kind of infrastructure in any other industry, like the banking industry. Like, if you said to someone, okay, I don't know, what percentage of your bank account transactions might be like slightly wrong, the answer would be, it should be zero, right? Well, in travel, it's like, what percentage of your hotel bookings should be slightly wrong? It's like, it's not zero. I don't actually know what percentage of it is, but as we've grown and we book a lot, it feels like every day we're creating, it's like a more money, more problems. It's like a more booking ops problem. And so I knew it was going to be bad, but as we've scaled, it's like almost unbearable how many problems we have. And it's really embarrassing because it creates financial problems for our hotels, and it erodes traveler and their advisor trust. And it's like, we're just like, okay, but it's not our fault. It's this hotel's fault that published an incorrect rate or didn't have the room type right. Or, we've had crazy stuff, like one hotel, which I won't mention who, like marketed a room as 850 square feet in their own GDS description of the room. And the traveler measured it and it was 650 square feet, and they requested a discount. And the hotel was like, you need to change your booking platform to not say it's an 850 square foot room. And I'm like, that description is from your GDS, your channel manager. You need to fix it. So just this like lack of understanding, even for the people who work in the industry, about how their own technology works, is like, mind-boggling to me to some extent. So, well, we're trying to work with our partners to make this whole thing more seamless, because ultimately we need, our goal from a distribution perspective is to leverage the scale, to be at the scale of an OTA, to make things easy to buy and sell, I guess, depending on which way you're looking at it. But with the high quality clients, and well-matched travelers to products that come from the travel advisor space.
Yeah. And the product, this is one thing I want to highlight to all of our listeners as well, because when Jake and I first connected, we were talking about the hotels, because you were building it up on the hotels and cruises, and you're only getting into experiences at that point. And then now you have Fora Reserve. So like the product portfolio has evolved quite substantially. And I just wanted to underscore the point that Jake was just sharing, and I also hear today from a lot of investors that are focused on investing in the plumbing of travel, as they like to refer to it, because all of that back integration, when Jake talks about the GDS, global distribution systems, for many of us that work in the industry, obviously those terms are so familiar to us, and even understanding the background of, airlines partnering together to make sure that all of their fares were available to be able to book on systems that pre-existed the internet. This is, so you have that whole, and then as soon as the internet became available, a lot of these companies started developing APIs, application interfaces, to make their product available if it wasn't on the GDS. So now you have to pair product. And I still remember this from my very first role in travel, with trying to figure out how we connect car, hotel, and air. And where does it start? It starts with the GDS and air, and then we have to get inventory from hotels, and then we have to get car reservations. Something that seems incredibly simple to a user trying to book those three things together is incredibly complex in the back end. And the part I wanted to highlight is all of these partners that you now have, because you've got the infrastructure in place, building off hotels and cruise, even like, because a big focus for me certainly has been the tour operator side. We certainly have a lot of tour operators that listen to our podcasts, G Adventures, Intrepid, those are on your platform now. And, even companies like Tauk, like you guys have done a lot of integration. And when I think about Tauk, like they're working with companies like Captio and like their systems, like each of these companies are trying to improve their technology so they can better work with a company like Fora. And then the one other thing, and I'm keen to ask you about this, even Fora Reserve, the fact that you're now partnering, you've got like 6,000 hotels around the world. You now have the Red Carnation collection, which is part of my background, the Travel Corporation. Jonathan is a great friend of mine, the CEO of Red Carnation. We're doing a series in season 7 on luxury hotels. And he's going to co-host that with me. And so the fact that you guys are moved into that premium space as well for your clients. So tell us a little bit from a product point of view, where you guys are on this journey now.
Well, I think, there's many things to talk about there. So one, we haven't integrated, just to start from the beginning of what you said, we haven't integrated with people like, I really like the tour operators like Tauk, Backroads, National Geographic, like Land Tours, people like Tour Radar. There's a lot of stuff there, and there's no sort of common protocol to do these integrations. So it gets complicated, and we haven't actually done that. So I do think it's probably not this year, but for tours, like those multi-day tour kind of things. But next year, I would love to be able to have multi-day tour inventory in our platform. So even this year, I hope we'll get to the point, we're talking to the just sort of activities, like the day tour stuff, like, Viator, Get Your Guide, Project Expedition, like these kinds of things. We'll have these in our platform. We don't yet, to be fully transparent. We sell a lot of insurance. It's not integrated in. I would love to, our insurance partners would love it. I want to do it. Then just a comment there is that other third-party platforms for advisors are doing those things and marking them up, and because they need to make money. We're a host agency, so when we do that, we won't mark those things up, and they'll just be available as they are naturally priced, which is one of the advantages that we have. We don't have a cruise tool yet because, when I started Fora, like half the things I looked at are no longer in existence. There's been an incredible amount of turnover in the cruise tool space, but we are launching, I've seen it exists, a cruise booking platform for Fora advisors. It's not going to be ours. We're going to skin it, someone else's, and do single sign-on. It's going to be really easy to use and integrate back with our data and everything. So it's going to be amazing, because just like with hotels, like if you want to know, okay, I want to maybe go to, the Croatia. I want to go something around Croatia, and I want to see all the cruises that stop in Split and Dubrovnik sometime next October. We currently can't do that in our infrastructure, and understand where there are perks and which sailings, and filter by different kinds of levels of luxury and price. And so being able to do that is going to be really important, especially as we're looking to grow. Your earlier comment about more people, boomers especially, it's like that my parents like cruise because they don't have to pack and unpack. So there's definitely an audience for cruise that's going to be emerging. I don't know if we sell a lot of Virgin Voyages. I think it's known, or maybe they've said, but we're their top agency. Like that has been a great example of something new to the market, where we're able to take this, sort of develop this new audience of people that are now cruising for the first time and selling a ton of cruise. So we have a whole cruise desk. We do training for advisors. We teach you how to sell cruise. If you have a client that you want to you're not a cruise advisor and you haven't gone through all the training, and the client wants to go on a cruise, we have a way through our delegation tool where you can actually, the cruise desk can go into your portal and help you service that client on your behalf. The commission split is slightly different.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. So this is what we're able to do. We launched a group. We have a huge groups business that's emerging. And so we have someone, Julie, who leads our groups team. And so we do a lot of training for groups, for advisors. This has been kind of the craftiness of our travel entrepreneurs. They've just developed these groups businesses, whether it's, stuff you'd expect, like a wedding block or like a small corporate group. But people have, done amazing things like book clubs that are taking 300 nights on a cruise, 300 rooms, cabins on a cruise, or affinity travel, or all sorts of things. And so that's going to be a big area of focus for us, how we scale groups. We're also we have a flights desk. And that the way we sort of backed into that was kind of interesting. And we're launching, it's over email. So I remember Carlson Wagonlit because when I was a consultant, I'd have to email in for my flights. Email is not a great way to book flights. Yeah. So we have a flight booking tool that's launching integrated into our flight desk this year. It's going to be ready very, very soon. Probably everyone at Fora will have it sometime late March, April, depending on how we sort of roll this out. And then transfers and all this other stuff. So we'll have full connected trip booking, across all categories. I don't know if it'll be everything by the end of this year, but definitely in early next year we'll have this. It's going to be super exciting. And then we have a lot to do on hotel too. But just to sort of put this in perspective, because you talk about tooling and what you need. So if you're a traditional agency, you need to go collect all these commissions. So a lot of what we've built for the first couple of years was this, it's like an iceberg, like under the waterline, there's this ginormous operation that's collecting and dispersing commissions. And one of the things we realized is that modern agencies aren't very good at paying their advisors. And so they settle for this eventual payout percentage of 90% or 95% of commissions that are owed to an advisor. And we thought that that's ridiculous. And so our goal is, somewhere way above 99% and fast. So you can't grow up. You wouldn't be expected to do work and get paid 90 days later. This is kind of ridiculous, maybe or not at all.
Yeah.
And so we've built this infrastructure to pay people. I don't remember the exact stat, but most of our commissions are paid 30 to 45 days after checkout, which is really quite fast. To reconcile and ingest all that takes a lot of effort. So we built that all ourselves. The thing is, you need to know the booking in order to collect the commissions. And so we used to manually log all this stuff. So we built an AI logger this past year. So you just you can upload a PDF of your booking, or you can email it in. And we have an AI tool that parses it all and figures out exactly what you booked. And you go through this really nice interface and you just verify it or adjust it slightly. And this gives us, a tremendous amount of booking information. And then this thing we launched with this integrated itinerary builder, that booking is immediately available on your trip. And you can press a button and turn that booking or set of bookings inside of a trip to a client-facing itinerary with your advisor branding on it, send them the link. You could do this in minutes. And so the itinerary builder isn't fully available on on a mobile device yet, but we're working on that. But if you can do most of that on your phone.
Well, that's one of the things I specifically wanted to ask you about was bookable quotes, because I know that was a big launch for you guys last year. And for any travel advisor that is working with a client, they're trying to put these packages together. And it's very different than just a online booking experience where someone's trying to book their own flight and then book their own hotel. I mean, this is the beauty of working with a travel advisor is they're going to put together a custom quote, and it has to be exactly that. It has to be a quote, because the a customer needs to still make the ultimate decision that these are all the things they want to do. And these are the right flights for them. This is the right tour, or this is the right cruise and transfers. And there's a lot of complexity that a travel advisor takes away to just give the consumer the flexibility of choice and making sure that all of that work is what they handle. And so when they've put together a quote, they've put a lot of time and effort into this, and they get the final confirmation from the customer. And then now it's time to actually make that. And so make that booking come to life. And some of it is trying to hold reservations. That's another aspect of all of this, is that you can't have it be that all of a sudden that quote's not valid anymore. So there's all these other factors about how long you can hold something for. But tell us a little bit more about the bookable quotes, because tell us how that rolled out and what the response has been to that.
Yeah, it's really kind of phenomenal. So 17% of our volume that we did last week in our booking platform was done via bookable quote, just to sort of end it. So that's, I mean, you might think that's low, but actually I think that's quite high. So just what bookable quote is. So instead of preparing, like if you want to book a hotel, if you're saying, okay, Dan, you want to go to Paris, I'll figure out some options, and I have my set of favorite hotels. I want to quote you, and I get your price range, and I'm going to say, okay, here's some rooms at La Fantasy that's in this area. Here's like the Kimpton, that's in another area. And here's something on the other side of the river. Maybe at a slightly higher or lower price point or whatever. And with each of those hotels, I might say, here's the basic room, but if you want, like, here's why I would suggest spending a little bit more money. And then usually these are for reserve partners or something like this. So there's an upgrade. And so if if you're starting at the elevated non-suite room, maybe the upgrade gets you to the suite or something like that. So, and I can outline all this in a nice email to you with like static pricing. So then you go home and you're busy, you're traveling, you wait 2 days, 3 days, you sit with your partner. It's like me and my wife were talking about stuff at like 11 p.m. in bed, like after the kids go to sleep, and it's like quiet. We can like actually make decisions. We're like looking at where we're going to be doing, like what we're doing tomorrow. This is the only time, right?
That well. I know that very well.
I book for clients, and they're mostly my friends. And so like they're texting me and stuff like, but normal advisor client relationships, you're not texting your advisor at 11 p.m. going like, we'll take this room, and they're writing back like, cool, I'll do it, and why not just book it right there when you're looking at that information? Also, like formatting that email to send to your clients is so annoying. So we said there's got to be a better way. So we built this thing. So you create this quote. It has all the feedback you want or kind of merchandising you want in it, plus the live bookable rate. So this solves a few problems. One, if time passes from when you look at it, from when I sent it to you, it's showing both the price at which I added it and the current price. So the price at which I added it is important because let's say something moves from $500 to $900 and you go, okay, Jake is insane. He thinks I'm going to spend that much money on this room. Like, and it'll at least show you, okay, when I added it, it was $500. And maybe it went down too. It could have been cheaper. Or if it's sold out, it's not available anymore. That's also easy. The thing is, maybe it's $20 more. So if I send you a static quote, maybe it's $50 more in a $500 room. If I sent you a static quote and then you wrote me back 3 days later, Jake, I'll take it. I go look it up again and I go, oh, it's $50 more. I'm not just going to book it because I need to confirm that he's okay with it being $50 more. So I write you back, another day passes. Now the room is sold out. This is ridiculous. Like this happens all the time to advisors. So we're like, this is not how modern commerce should happen. So we built this tool. You can just go click, check out. The other thing that's happened, and advisors have reported that they've gotten better about thinking about how they merchandise the options to their clients, which is really like back to my early consulting days, like present 3 options to the client and you want them to take the middle option and make the first and third options so in whatever, like that they're going to just take the second option because it's like it's anchoring. So, I don't know, like a $60,000 looks cheap amongst a sea of $100,000 cars, right? Like when that, previously we might have thought that was expensive. So what advisors are reporting is that they're often showing clients, I know you asked for the king room at this hotel, but I just want to show you that for $100 more a night, you could have the junior suite. Just look at it. And actually there's another hotel around the corner that's even better. And what advisors are reporting is that people are just upselling on their own. Like they're picking a higher category. And that would have not been something they might have done with like a standard quote. So that's really interesting. An advisor, 2 funny stories. An advisor just wrote me yesterday that they sent a bookable quote 2 months ago to a client for some travel later this year. And they were just notified today or yesterday that the person booked.
Nice.
They've forgotten about it. And two, the tool is so easy to use. We launched this at our live forum, which is our massive own event that we do every fall for our own advisor community. I'm on stage doing what's kind of like the most fun thing I do all year, which is kind of get to be Oprah and give away, free technology to our advisors. It's really fun. And so this was in the segment of, everyone gets a bookable quote tool, describing the tool. And we had just turned it on at the beginning of the session for everyone. And this advisor in the third row just kind of instinctually just kind of jumped up and raised her hand and in the middle of my sentence. And I'm like, what's going on? Do you want to say something? And she's like, I just sent a bookable quote 5 minutes ago and the person just booked it. And I was like, yes, this is exactly the point. And so it's about making this a much more modern experience. And I think there's and then we launched a V1 of it and we have a ton of features and people have great ideas. And so this kind of highlights the fun part of it is we can plant a seed and then we sit here and go, okay, we have our own ideas for the next 17 versions of this, but our community starts using it. And our community is full of people that are entrepreneurial. They have other jobs. Like we have product engineers, product designers, we have tech people, we have marketers, we have there's lawyers, accountants in our advisor community. So they're giving us really interesting feedback like, hey, what if you could do this? And what if you could do that? And we're going, that's a great idea. We didn't think about it that way. And so we're very attuned to listening to this feedback. And what I told advisors at the beginning of my talk this year at Live Forum was that, yes, it's like me and the product vision. I'm supported by 80 plus people on my team. And then my team is supported by the entire company that works with advisors. But really, we're also supported by this 11,000 active advisor community that kind of is co-creating this with us. And that's really powerful from a product perspective, because we're able to build exactly the things that people need to scale their businesses in a way that I don't think exists in any other place, and makes this a really fun place to be someone on my team.
Yeah, well, it's clear when investors look at your business as a huge market opportunity, and they look at the team, the founding team, and you guys getting your Series C, and just what the potential is of the business long term. It's still, from my vantage point, I'm sure your investors are. It's still relatively early days, and I want to underline where you guys have gotten to at the end of 2025, going into 2026. But one of the things that having this conversation with you, Jake, that stands out to me is the fact that you came into this industry, and obviously I knew this from, getting to know each other, but when you came into this industry, you weren't in travel, as you highlighted. You just referred going back to your consulting days. And there's really an interesting way to innovate in travel. And part of it is people who understand the industry. So clearly both Henley and Evan do. They've worked in travel for many years, and Evan with his successful track record of a couple of significant exits, and he's developed some innovative products before, and he knows the industry really well, and clearly Henley does. But when you have people that work within the industry, that think within the industry, it's not often where the innovation comes from. I know so many organizations that struggle with technology, and I've worked inside some of those organizations, and when they build out new product features, they end up just recreating the wheel again. And it's actually one of the reasons that they struggle is because they rely on the internal team members to help them spec out that new product, and they just keep rebuilding what they've already built. You have come in, looked at some of these friction points and addressed some of these challenges, which, as you've just been highlighting, it's, if anything, to me, your mind works in a way that you're very keen to solve these problems because you're coming up against these different friction points and realizing, wait a second, there is a better way. And this bookable quote was obviously one great example of that you guys delivered last year. But tell us where you guys have gotten to in terms of scale and obviously the momentum going into 2026. You mentioned you have 11,000 advisors. You did over $1 billion in revenue, which is
$1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Okay,
don't
forget that half.
That's 500 million, and I forget about that.
That's more. It's a whole
that was in 2025 total bookings, 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I'm sure there's forward bookings for 2026.
It's interesting in travel because, and I think this scares away some investors, because the revenue is really delayed. And this just highlights the problem of becoming an advisor. So onboarding to become an advisor, if you go to another agency that's demanding you be a full-time advisor, they're basically self-selecting who can do that, who can stop work, take basically no pay, and start hustling to sell travel under some sort of like, like apprenticeship model where you may not be getting a great commission split or something, and all your revenue is like, year months away. No one can do this, or people who can do that have the financial support that can do it. And it just creates a kind of like, homogeneous industry. So we've said we have many advisors who start out kind of, I'm doing this with my hands. Like, imagine a graph where like one line is going down and the other line's going up. And at some point, they're ramping down from something. So they're nearing the end of their teaching career, like accounting career, lawyer career, whatever. And they have 5 other jobs and they want to add something to their portfolio. Like they're a, photographer, yoga instructor, whatever, with a huge network, and they want to add travel. Or they're a wedding planner, and actually, like, why isn't the wedding planner also providing like hotel blocks and like honeymoon services and stuff like that? So you look at all these. It's like, there was like a, I don't know if you remember, it's a Coke Zero or something ad where it was like, it was all about the and. It's not the or. It's like, tastes great and like doesn't have sugar. It's like this. It's like, why does it have to be or? Like it can be and so it can be you're a florist and a travel advisor. Like what is the issue? And I think many of the traditional travel advisors that I knew growing up, which includes like my great aunt actually, who had a travel like in-person brick and mortar travel advisor place in West Hartford, Connecticut, and my neighbor outside of Boston who went to is still a travel advisor and used to go into an office. They didn't go every day. They were 3 days a week in the office. And so being able to onboard people into this industry is sort of what we're doing. And I think the momentum is that more and more people are coming to us and saying, I had a 3-year plan to transition from my full-time job to being a travel advisor, and I did it in a year. And I want to let you know. They write us these notes, that Henley, Evan, and I, and they're like, well, I'm so grateful that this has happened faster. And we're just like, I'm happy that we're able to support that, but it's like, it almost brings like a tear to my eye of joy, like that people are able to do this. And it feels so empowering. So my last fintech job, my startup, empowered low-income people to have financial health. And I was worried that leaving this startup that had so much positive, we helped millions of people save money and improve their financial health through with partners like MasterCard and the US government at the time. And it was really, really amazing. And I was a little bit worried coming into this that I wouldn't find the same sort of like meaning. And actually I found it here because, it's like, how many on room nights, like, are you selling? Like, is this really like changing the world? And actually we are changing the world. We hear these stories of people who have like tricky parent situations and they needed to stay home to raise their kids, but they didn't want to they had like, some hours in the day and they wanted to do something. And it's like, how do you become a travel advisor? And we've enabled that. And it's really just amazing. So a couple of things about scale. The one thing that when people ask, what's the thing that you didn't expect at the beginning? It's this thing. We have advisors in 92 countries. We honestly did not expect that. It's kind of amazing. So we have people all over the world selling travel. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that they don't have local agencies to support them in those places. A lot of those people are somehow like tied to America. That was like the beginning sort of international expansion, but many of them are now like just fully international people. We launched last year. I did not think we were going to do this. We launched Fora Canada and Fora Mexico as actual registered agencies in those countries. One surprise last year was the joy of dealing with the Mexican tax authorities. I think actually the IRS could probably take a little bit of an example from them in terms of their seriousness around how they do things. So we've had to, just scramble to implement different kinds of ways of thinking about tax accounting there. Independent contractors in Mexico, you have to do withholding actually. We were not ready for that really, but we had to get ready very quickly. So full credit to the finance pod. I mean, it's funny because when I didn't know what I wanted to do next in my startup career. And when we started, one of the things that at first when Evan told me about this idea, I thought he was completely joking. But then I very quickly realized that this is the perfect thing because I have a little bit of ADD or a lot of it, I guess. And, I didn't want to build just one thing. I wanted to build so many things. So one of the things we built is we're a ginormous fintech company. And so figuring out how to pay people in 92 countries is a challenge. And we actually, we didn't really expect to have that problem, and we didn't expect to be dealing with like international tax regimes either. And so credit to our finance pod, the product pod that builds all of our financial infrastructure, for being able so nimble and being able to do this really quickly. We have a lot more of that work ahead for us because we're going to be launching other official countries later this year. And it's like, no one wakes up in the morning and goes like, I want to build tech to like, deal with international tax rules, but you got to do it. And it's really exciting to see the growth there. So that's one thing. And, I think, next year when we talk to our partners, we're planning on doubling this year in terms of our volume. And our momentum is really on pace to do that, or more than that, based on what we're seeing so far as the year has begun. And it sort of reframed how we're thinking about it. Like, Evan is a real big data person and put together a plan. So you mentioned this number before. Our plan, really in like 10 years is to sell $100 billion of travel. And the founders, when I say this, it's like no one here is looking for another job. Like, we all want this to be the last job that we do. And that's not because I want to flip this startup for, to Google for billions of dollars and like retire. I want to be doing this job. And so does Evan and Henley, forever, for the rest of our lives. Like, it's really a lot of fun. Maybe a little bit less work in the evenings would be nice, but
especially got a young family.
Yeah, like just maybe not some manic days, but a little bit of slack, or I could actually travel a little bit more. But we all mean this like seriously, that we want to be doing this and build the next generational travel company. I don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of what format will be. Will we be a public company? We're not thinking about that. Like, we're just thinking about, okay, what are the next 3 years sort of, and are they going to be on track towards this larger vision? But no one is sitting here going like, I want another job or anything like that. So, and I think travel is the market that allows you to do that because it is so big and everyone travels. And it's, we'll talk about this when our views on AI and how I think humans fit into that. But, travel is one of these foundational things like food that we just sort of talk about in society on a regular basis. When COVID ended, everyone's traveling again. So we are in this position of being an agent to that. And so we sell everything. So like, if there's a problem in one place, we sell other places. If there's a shifting in economics, we are sitting at the top of the market, which sort of seems to have unlimited demand for travel. But if people want to save a little bit of money, they go for a day less, or they stay at, a slightly cheaper hotel, but they're still traveling. And so we're not, unless I don't think there's going to be another like global travel disruption, like a COVID kind of thing. I mean, I hope not, or a war. I mean, I don't really know what people, I don't want to get into like the political situation, but we do look at this very closely. But I think travel is quite resilient. And so we're sitting here looking at like a big roadmap for what we're going to be doing. And that allows us to think, when we're building features, back to the technology, I am building like as fast as possible for tomorrow, but we're doing it in a brick by brick way for the longer term. And I think this is where, you mentioned like me being new to travel. All of my jobs, I've been new to it. So I was not a fintech entrepreneur in 2010 when I started Payberks. And, I was doing things then like integrating to payment platforms that now in 2016, you can do in like 10 minutes, or in 2016, you could do in 10 minutes when all this new wave of fintech came out. But in 2010, it was like, okay, we're going to send XML files back and forth via SFTP. Well, I knew how to do that. I built this like an amazing data-driven kind of analytics supply chain optimization tool in 2002. We had like 9 Pentiums strung together doing linear optimization to help Kraft save money on their like folding carton spend in ways that they couldn't even believe were possible from an analytics perspective. It wasn't my idea. Again, I was just doing a lot of the tech at that consulting firm. And later we were doing all this multi-channel e-commerce stuff in 2005 and 6 and 7 when I was at Infosys for clients like Walgreens and their photo department and Victoria's Secret Direct that were on the cutting edge then. And then I joined this air taxi startup in the UK. I knew nothing about I knew a lot about aviation, but I didn't know about like aviation systems, like flight planning and safety systems. And I pieced together this whole infrastructure for this, 7-plane, 40 pilot little airline that we built in the UK. So coming in from the outside is what I've always done. And I really like doing that. And I think if I could say like the one thing that's my special skill is like seeing how the bricks get put together to build, whatever your analogy is, like the house or the skyscraper brick by brick, and kind of what's the best way to sequence those things out. So you have usable product along the way, and you're optimizing both for the short term and the long term.
Well, given that everyone now has a solid understanding of the foundation at Fora and the solid foundation that the team has built and your role, I want to talk about 2026 and where you go from here, because, you have this incredible momentum. More and more people are recognizing the Fora travel brand. As you highlighted too, Jake, one of the things that stood out to me and the reason I was very keen to record this podcast here together live in person was to meet the team and see the dynamic in the office. And actually not only it's very clear that you guys are all very purpose driven, but that what you just described was like doing good in the world. I mean, most of these travel advisors, and many of our listeners know I was raised by a single mom, and actually giving them opportunities, because many of them has been a female dominated profession, because it was an opportunity for women when they didn't have other opportunities and could work from home, especially with young kids. And that is, and it's lifting up single moms who now can take their kids to school and have the lifestyle that they're seeking. And it's very real and meaningful for me to hear you say that and know you mean it and see the dynamic here in the office. And I'm sure many of our listeners will feel the same way and it will resonate with them. And that's for me, knowing you have those good intentions and you've built the foundation of this company, understanding where you guys are headed in 2026. And we've already been kind of alluding to some of the exciting developments in terms of product, but what would be, Jake, kind of like, if given you're even thinking, long term, but in 2026, what would be 2 or 3 of your kind of main priorities for this year? What are you guys really focusing on building out, or, what are the real top business priorities for you guys here?
Yep. So it's easy. So because we focus it down to really one thing, which is making our advisors more successful. So this is our core essence. We want to continue making this job available to more people. So we will grow our advisor community. There's just, we're so, a lot of people in the places where we are know Fora advisors, but there's so many places where there are not Fora advisors. Like we're biased. I mean, we're in New York, there's many people that know Fora advisors, but if you go to other places, that's not the case. So there's still plenty more room. And if you look at sort of the travel numbers, there's just so much more room. Like the travel advisor channel is still very small. So we want to continue growing that. But really it's about how do we make $100,000 of travel and make them into whatever they want to be, like whether that's $250 a year, they want to be a $2 million producer. How do we accelerate their journey? How do we take someone we have many of our top advisors who are doing $5 million, let's say, and they want to build a $20 million travel advisor business. How can we help them do that? Evan and I sort of have this and Henley have this early emerging vision of, could we have, with AI and the tooling that we're going to build, $100 million advisor team of just a couple people? Like, I think it's very possible to be able to imagine that world. So that means the products that we're building are really focused on that, which allows incredible clarity. And there's nothing like clarity to allow you to sort of cut through this decision-making kind of problem, because I'm like ADD and I want to do everything. So I'm like, oh, we could also do this and this and this. And I sit in the shower in the morning and I'm just ideas are flowing through my brain of things we could be doing.
Wait, are you saying you sit in the shower?
No, I mean, I'm standing in the shower. I don't.
But maybe you take a moment just to sit and think.
No, I don't sit. I don't have a seat. Yeah, I would yeah. I'm often, this is a long story, but I'm often in the shower in the morning with kids also kind of just rinsing them off too. So there's not a very relaxing moment, but I think this is the place of a lot of great ideas. I was joking, I need a waterproof microphone now with all these dictation tools and AI. I could be productive there, but it's actually a calm place for me to actually think. But I hope this we're not cutting that from the episode, by the way. That's where I think. But actually, to be fair, it's where I thought of the whole launch plan for the booking platform. I literally, I told the story before. I've told it on other podcasts. It's out there. I thought of that in the shower. It just this light bulb moment came off about how we were going to launch our booking platform 2 years ago. Anyway, so
dude, I was going to say, I get it. I actually, most of my keynote presentations, my thought process, I pace around in the shower and actually and so now I'm sharing, maybe that's a little oversharing as well, but it is actually, and I think for everyone, you need to be able to access your creative mind. And it's a great place to be able to do that because you are relaxed. So, and that's why I was joking, because actually in my shower, there actually is a place to sit. And occasionally, if I'm having a good thought, I might actually just take a moment. So I thought maybe I found another shower sitter like me that uses that time as a valuable work time, because it's for me, it's not an escape. It's actually like, I'll get into the shower and I'm like, this is actually, if I'm not in a hurry, I'm like, I will slow things down intentionally to like capture those ideas. But I have not worked out the microphone or how do I dictate from that. But I have my phone outside and sometimes I look at it and like, I want to reach and just make some notes.
Yes,
So
I'm there. I'm there with you.
yeah. Anyway, back to some of the big plans for 26. That
I do have a teak. I do have a teak chair, like a seat in the shower. It's like one of those teak things, but it's full of like, it became the shelf for all the stuff that my kids need to access, because we don't have like another low shelf, so you can't sit on it anymore because it's just full of like kids' toys and stuff. So okay, clarity of product. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to do. Like I just mentioned, like, okay, we're going to integrate with all these people and sell all these other categories. You're going to hear me not talk about that because those are all supporting things we need to do. Like another one is room mapping. Like our current booking platform doesn't map rooms. We don't book children with all of our partners. There's like basic stuff that we will also do. But when we think about it, it's really a slightly higher level. So there's three things I wanted to highlight. One is completing the build out of our end-to-end workflow solution. So this is also, of the three things I'm going to mention, is maybe not the most exciting one, but it is we need to do it. So our advisors are currently using a combination of all the other tools that are out there for travel advisors. And we're going to, I think everyone knows by this point, I've sort of danced around this. We're going to build all that tooling ourselves, internally connected to our booking platform and all the ways we work. And so some advisors have used that tooling. Some are using other things because I literally don't have all those features. Like I don't have all the automations and workflow tools. We'll have that at various points throughout the year for people to use our way, complete with your branding, and it'll be fully white labelable. So you can have a full client experience at your own domain name with, instant itinerary creation using all of our powerful technology for your travel business. And you will be able to support not only like single travel advisors, but full teams of people that want to collaborate. So that's a big focus for us this year. So there's account delegation and access controls and all sorts of like, no one wakes up and says, I want to build permission systems for tools. Like when they're, like a kid, but we have to build that. So that's one thing. And then we have a whole pod dedicated to the advisor enablement workspace. The fun parts of that are like integrated marketing. So this is one of the reasons we bought Legends, this AI company that gets to know people through their like, calendar and email data, and also just kind of thinking process of Shayna and Stephanie, who are now, Shayna is now one of the VPs of product. She runs this pod, thinking about, how to leverage data to make advisors more successful. So we have this incredible data mode where we can actually learn about clients, suggest things. And this is where sort of the better equation of travel comes in. It's like we built this other tool last year, which I didn't even get to mention yet, this like integrated deals tool, which goes around and scrapes deals from all of our partners, because you can imagine that hotels don't just make all their deals easily accessible in like an RSS feed. Wouldn't that be nice? So we've built scrapers and we have manual ingestion techniques, and we can take PDFs. Like one of our hotel partners sends us like a PDF of all their deals. We have to like ingest it, match the hotels to the actual hotel database name, and like then figure out if we already have the deal or not, and put like the booking window. Anyway, we can now say, okay, this is a client who likes staying at Four Seasons. Great. Like they want to go to Florida. Great. There's like, oh, look, there's deals. There's 3 Four Seasons in Florida. There's deals at them. Like, let's promote them. Hey, advisor, maybe you should send these deals to your client. We can automate all that kind of stuff. The second big bet we're going to make this year is the client booking platform. So this is also not a unique idea. Virtuoso, like, for their advisors, has their own client booking platform. TravelWits, other people have client booking platforms. Ours is, I think better. We have all of this amazing supply. And just like this is like the next iteration of Bookable Quote. So Bookable Quote, I send you a rate for a hotel. You check out. So this is like a couple layers up from that. I just let you authenticate. So you, first of all, actually I missed something. You authenticate yourself because this is a closed user group. It has to be you. You see the quote, you pick one of the options I've given you, you check out. The client booking platform is just a few more things in there where you authenticate. Now, you could see a quote that I've prepared for you, like, hey, Dan, I've curated some hotels in Paris for you. Just pick one of these. Or you could say, I just want to look myself. and I want to just go and book a hotel in Paris. So there's a lot of travel that's going to come from this. So we know that travelers are not working with their advisors on all of the travel. They work with them on the big stuff, the Africa safari, the honeymoon, the big family multi-gen trip. It's Thursday night. What happens on a last minute basis? You're looking at the weather and you're like, I want to go to Florida tomorrow because it's going to be a blizzard in New York this weekend. So it's 11 p.m. You're not going to write your advisor. You need to book the flight and you need to get a hotel right now. So you're just going to go book that direct with the hotel, miss out on the opportunity to leverage the collaboration with your advisor. That's going to be a thing of the past. So we will launch this client booking platform. This is where we're sort of reliant. This is where we really bump into the world of existing travel tech. So the interface is not quite ready for the consumer yet. So we're figuring out when we're going to do it. It's going to be an alpha at the end of the end of March, and then it'll be a Q2 launch. We don't have exact plans because we're still working on some of the things like room mapping and some of the other technology, but that's coming. We can talk about that, but we also, just on that, Evan and I have Evan has sat down and mapped out what is that going to do to our business. And I think it's going to fundamentally change how much travel we sell. We just have no way of knowing how to model it. So we have some estimates, but it's going to be interesting. The third area is obviously AI. If you couldn't have figured that one out by now, what are we doing here? So we, and I know you want to talk about this too, the role of AI with travel advisors, but AI is obviously empowering everything we do. And I think everything changed in the last 3 months for me personally. AI tools just it's like a whole new world. Forget about before 3 months ago. So I'm on my computer. We're now, and this is another thing that's unique about us. Evan and Henley and I are using AI all the time as founders. We're trying to encourage people to do it. I have Claude Code on my computer. Claude Code now connects to our BI tool. I don't need to go into our BI tool and run reports. I can just literally type, hey, tell me the channel breakdown for the bookings for this hotel from this period to this period by, segmented by different advisor types and longevity cohorts at Fora. That's a very complex kind of thing to do. Actually, you can do it in our BI tool, but this would take a little while to put together that view. This does it in a minute, and everything has changed. So I just pushed. This will surprise some people. I'm the CTO and the CPO, but I actually pushed my first pull request to our backend repo yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago, to update font files to a new compressed format. It's a no-brainer, but I did it with Claude Code just to see if I could do it with Claude Code, because I noticed that one of our font files was downloading a TTF or TFF file that's not compressed, and I made it a WOFF2 file, and the team is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm an engineer. I have a CS degree. I particularly have decided not to code because it's a very slippery slope where it becomes addicting for me. So I'm now going to start coding stuff. I just can't resist now building my own stuff. And I think I've resisted it, but now I'm going to do it. And I think AI has changed everything. So the model is now there. So how this affects advisors, coming back to this, you look at Claude Code, what it's been doing for me in my workflow, in my own just regular work. I think about it now as okay, Claude Code embedded in our portal for advisors, which, for those of us who were around in the old days, this is like the Microsoft Clippy on steroids embedded in and we, people on my team look at me we have a young team. They're like, Microsoft Clippy, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, and I go pull up a picture of Microsoft Clippy and I'm like, wow, this icon is really old. I don't know when Clippy ended its life, but it's clearly a 90s thing. And so it's a lot of other products have embedded AI agents, but when you think about it in this real embedded way, what it could be doing for you, both in a reactive way, but also in a proactive way, this gets sort of interesting. So now when we think about all the components of Portal, so I think about, I'm a brick layer. So I think about these different bricks of things. We have a CRM, we have advisor enablement tooling, we have the booking platform. There's advanced rate intelligence in the booking platform is another brick. Each of those components has UI, training, UI associated with it. And we spend a lot of time with product design and making the UI really work really well and investing in quality. So that's one way you can interact with all of our tooling. The other way now is everything has its own AI interface, whether that's MCP or whatever comes out in the future. We can do that. One of our engineers, funny story, had his first kid in the fall. one of our newly promoted directors of engineering. And while he was in the NICU, he built a plug for his open source framework, Django REST framework, MCP. So if we build in Django, REST framework is this plugin for Django that builds APIs, and REST framework, he built this one MCP open source package that turns that into an MCP interface, and we use it. So this unlocked our ability to very quickly build our own internal AI agent. This is, wow, it works. It's embedded. We're not ready for prime time yet. We're going to be rolling this out sometime in Q1, and it will do a few things for you, and then it's going to do a lot more. So now we have this whole work stream around embedded AI agent that's going to be really exciting.
So I want to just highlight too that you have been a key part of our AI Summit over the last couple of years. And so many of our listeners know Jake, and actually Stephanie's joined us last 2 years as well. So, I was thrilled about the whole Legends integration, given the fact that you obviously have a core competency around AI and obviously need to bring in additional talent. And one of the things I just wanted to call out, though, as we were having that conversation, for any of you that are listening to this, just to make sure some of the terminology that Jake mentioned that is obviously second nature to him. BI is business intelligence, so having access to those reports, and also MCP, which is what everyone's talking about now, like model context protocol, being able to use AI agents to be able to access external data, so being able to query databases or even form a more complex tasks like sending emails. And what I wanted to highlight to all of our listeners too, when I walked in today, and this is where you guys walk the walk, Evan was actually using a microphone to tell everyone about his setup, because I know I mentioned he was walking, but he doesn't type, because he was saying, I find I can't really type in a meeting. So he actually talks out his emails. Tell us.
Yeah, he uses WhisperFlow to talk.
Yeah.
It's like microphone. Yeah, he's always talking. We're like, are you talking to us? But I do this too. My wife is confused because I mean, Siri is the worst. Like, hello, Apple, if you're listening. I mean, please, let's make this better. I mean, I hope the new Google partnership will make dictation better. But like I used to think talking to Siri, like to do text messages was silly. And then at some point, I was like, okay, this is actually much easier. I just wish it would actually spell out things correctly and it's obvious what I'm saying, but in context of the message, but it can't seem to get it right. But WhisperFlow actually does a much better job. And so he's using that a lot more. And what's interesting is like you could be doing something on your computer, like searching the web, and then Claude Code is running in another screen and then asks you for something, and you can just like speak into it and say, okay, yes, do that, please. And it just becomes a new way of interacting. And I actually think though, but like, this is very apt. So I'm at dinners. I was at a dinner for a friend's birthday party in Pittsburgh in October. Wow. It seems like years ago, but it was just October. And I'm at this table, and people are, we're talking now about travel because it's one of the things you do as people. And I'm like, some people knew I was a travel. I actually owned a travel agency or built a travel agency. And so we're talking about where people like to go and like why I was a travel advisor. And some guys are booking Four Seasons directly at this dinner. And I'm like, please, like, just call me and let me help you get, better rates and options at the Four Seasons. So I'm now like, they're like, oh yeah, this is my name. I knew their names. And I left the dinner and I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember all this stuff to go do. Of course, I forgot it all, and I have to write my friend to be like, remind me all the people that were at my table, like I need to go follow up with. But my idea was like, how come I can't just like open my Fora app into this AI agent and just say, okay, I met John at the dinner. He likes this, this, and this, and his email is John at like blah 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 blah. Please add him as a client and put an opportunity to like a reminder for me to send him some of the deals that are at these hotels and these locations. 2, I met this other person, Steve. You could just like dictate this, or you could copy and paste from text messages or take screenshots from your phone and put it directly in our agent, can parse all this stuff. And the agent can go and create new clients, update existing clients, create trips in your workflow, create proposals and itineraries, eventually create bookable quotes automatically. You're like, okay, like let's say we were walking to the subway and you're like, hey, I'm going to Paris next week. And I'm like, oh, when? And you're like, on Wednesday. And I'm like, do you have a hotel yet? And you're like, yeah, but I booked something. I could, I could cancel it. And I'm like, okay, let me send you a bookable quote. And I'm like, okay, send Dan. I talk to my agent and I go, send Dan a bookable quote for 3 nights at La Fantasy starting in Wednesday, include the regular room and the junior suite, and then also include this other hotel and this other hotel, blah, blah, blah. Send it to Dan. And it could just do that. And so this is very like, we could have this now. So the reason we don't have it now is because we're building it now. But I'm hoping, by the time we speak again, we'll have this and we can just play with it.
Well, and I think that's for both of us. I find this time even more exciting than the .com era that clearly we both came into the industry, or like that came into our careers, I guess, at a similar time, and embracing what was available then. Well, right now, there's so many incredible use cases for AI, which why we started the AI Summit. And obviously it's like been great to have you there speaking at it, because the problems you can now solve by having access to this technology, they're very real, and it's happening very quickly. And all of a sudden you're having one breakthrough after another. The one thing I wanted to try and demystify for all of our listeners, though, is what how, from your perspective, how AI is actually changing how people plan and book travel. Because there's two aspects to this from my perspective. One is, for travel advisors, there's a lot of AI technology that can improve their workflow. And some of the examples you were just sharing there are about how you become more efficient with your time and more effective with your reach outs, because you can be that much more customized. And obviously, the Legends integration, I had that huge wow factor when I first, saw what they could build with this idea of a traveler DNA profile based on initially scraping metadata from your photos, then taking your calendar, which then gives you access to your loyalty programs and your flight times. And it learns more about you to be able to make customized recommendations. But a lot of that is on kind of the back end. So a lot of that is invisible to the user, and that's intended to be the case. So my question, I guess, to you in two parts: when you think about AI and how it's going to change travel, how much of that is in the background and in improving systems and processes? And what of that technology do you think is exposed to the customer or the travel agent? How are they expected to utilize AI tools?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The first things we did were very much in the background. So we actually have this thing that just takes the all caps kind of paragraph of the room description from the GDS with no punctuation and turns it into like a bulleted list. Yeah, that's super simple. Like AI is a great secretary or transcriber, and transformer. We actually built a funny version that turns it into like Shakespeare language or like Run DMC. So we didn't publish. We should like do this version, but it was like wrapping the room description. I mean, this was like, 2 years ago, like what can you do with the LLM? Like make all of the GDS descriptions sound like Run DMC wrapped it. Like it's kind of, it's like we laugh, but I think that's the fun thing about this stuff. It's like very human, like it's just fun. So we made it in iambic pentameter. It was just hilarious, like reading the description of the room, in iambic pentameter. Anyway, we used it to reconciling. So search. It's kind of like search on steroids. It's like reconciling bookings. So we get these huge booking files. We get these ginormous checks of consolidated commissions from our hotel partners, and then it comes with a ledger of bookings, and all sorts of stuff happens, like guest check out a day early. We booked it under this last name, but actually because the loyalty program is of the spouse that has a different last name, they changed the name of the booking, and we can't like reconcile it. So AI is very good at just figuring all that stuff out. What else do we do in the back end with AI? Oh, parsing things, like parsing the sort of like the booking ingestion that I mentioned before. That's AI. We use AI. So we use AI to transform, just like integrated transformation of text, shorten it, lengthen it. Like we have all that stuff. It's sort of par for the course now in our proposal builder. We just launched something 2 weeks ago for everyone. It had been in beta for a little bit, AI ingest. Other people have had this in the advisor tooling space. So to give full credit, we're not the first people to have this, where you could take a third-party itinerary. Like, so you work with a DMC, they give you this beautiful itinerary, but it has their branding all over it. It looks, sometimes better than others. It's not what you want to show your client. So you ingest it into our tool, and it transforms it into our itinerary builder format. And then you can share it with your client. So it's kind of like magic. So we've done thousands and thousands of these have been built or done over the last couple of weeks. People are really very excited about this, and there's a lot of room for improvement. We could make certain blocks transform better, and we're going to really push forward on our builder technology for our itinerary products. So we'll have to keep iterating here to make it look better and better, and allow advisors to customize the look and feel of it more and things like that. So that's a real thing, because advisors were spending hours transforming these things manually. So this is like one of these great tests. It's like, okay, 5 hours to like recreate the itinerary in like a better format for your client. It's an asynchronous task. You upload it, the tool does it. They take between 3 minutes and 50 minutes, an hour, depending on how many images there are and how much content there is. But it runs asynchronously and just lets you know when it's done. Then you get this itinerary, you got to proofread it, and you can send it to your client. So that's that's kind of both front end and back end. I do think there's a world where that gets really smart, where then it starts attaching the content to like, oh, this is a hotel. I can actually pull more images of the hotel from the Fora image library. And you could prompt the advisor, hey, do you want to supplement this itinerary with more stuff? That's really interesting. The community, when people ask me, what's the most important thing about Fora, they say it's got to be the technology, but actually it's the community. I've also said this over and over again, that you really cannot replicate. So the community has all this shared wisdom. Advisors are talking in WhatsApp groups. It's very temporal. Like, what's the difference between this room type and that? I mean, they're very detailed questions. Like, okay, 3 people staying at this hotel. What's the difference between this room type and that room type? This kind of stuff doesn't exist on the internet, but it exists in our community. So how do we make this available to other people in our community at scale? So we're thinking about how to organize our information in better ways to make this more automatic. And I think that's really where AI is going to be felt more by the advisor. It's just, I don't want them to feel like they're, using AI in a way that's like using AI. It should just feel like it's part of the product. So it actually, the magic is, and I've been saying this, since the beginning, I don't think the magic is like LLMs will continue to evolve. They're going to be amazing. They are amazing already. I'm so glad I'm not building AI tooling because, I feel bad for startups that just kind of get like Claude reaches a new, launches a new feature, entire startups get like wiped out. But it's kind of like Mac, Apple used to do this, like there'd be all this software built and then all of a sudden they introduce that feature into the OS and everyone like entire company like explodes. I think you see this a lot in AI. I don't want to be predictors of, who's going to win and not win in like the AI infrastructure space. So we're applied AI users. We're buyers of AI technology, which is a really fun way to be in this kind of revolution because we get to sample everything and play with it, and then figure out how we embed it and use it. So we're an applied or embedded AI company, and I think Evan and I were wondering if we were maybe the most interesting applied AI company in New York. I'd say there's probably a case to make that we are actually. And so, I think the interface to the AI is probably the most important thing about how this works. And so it's not like the chatbot was not like the end game. The end game is actual product that feels magical because part of it is powered by AI in the background.
Well, there's a specific question I want to ask you on this about how you actually structure your AI efforts internally, because I'm also keen to ask you about culture, and we'll come to that in a moment. But before we do, when you talk about embracing AI as an organization, clearly in startup world, speed is paramount, speed to market and being able to embrace new technologies and be able to utilize them in a way that you can, more rapidly scale your business, but at the same time, there's risk inherent with that. So, if you are implementing new systems, everyone still keeps talking about, AI hallucinating and, it's gotten better and better, but there still is risk associated with that. Even when you get those results verbally from, ChatGPT or otherwise, it's like double check this information. So when you guys are building with AI yourself, the engineering team, how do you approach the kind of, I guess, that speed, trust, and making sure that it's truly useful? So how do you structure your AI efforts internally to make sure, as you described it, it's exciting to be the end user of this technology and figure out how to embrace it. But there are challenges. So I'm sure many of our listeners, that's why I'm always trying to be mindful of one of the questions they want to hear you answer. And I think that's one that I think if you guys are, ahead of the curve at any other company in New York and how you guys are applying this technology, and I'm sure our listeners would love to know how do they approach it successfully as well.
Yeah, I definitely don't have all the answers here. I'll share a few things, but I'll also first say that we honestly have no idea how to really structure AI in our team. Like we've gone through a few.
I love the candor.
This is. We just spoke about this at the board meeting on Wednesday, and Yossi and I sit around. Yossi's our VP of engineering and sort of my main partner in crime on this stuff. And we're sitting around going like, how do we do this? There's lots of existential questions. Like, so the thing I put in the board deck was vibe coding to production. Like no one has this answer. How do you, and I refuse to, everyone's like, I just vibe coded an entire production system. Great. Like try to maintain it, and I just think there's a little bit of false, if you just sort of look at like Twitter and sort of what people are saying, you can be lulled into this thinking that it's like so easy. It is easy. I made this pull request that changed all of our font files. It messed up. It changed the file name, it changed a file name that was imported to another file that didn't have proper test coverage on it. It broke something. Another engineer helped me out. It's not so easy, and we deal with this too. So I'll say a couple things. We restructured our engineering efforts. We had an AI pod that was separate, and then we said, that's not the right way to do it. So now we have AI embedded into every pod. We created this role. I mean, we just had to come up with a name. It's called AI Innovator. Okay, what is it? It's a bit of a product manager, a hacker, someone who just understands AI and can like do stuff with AI. We have AI innovators. We have a handful of them. They are all slightly different. They have different strengths and weaknesses. Some are more data sciencey. Some are more like they've been applied AI people. I'll give you an example of a hallucination. One of our AI innovators, Eric Singh, who came to us. Actually, probably Stuart Grief. He was a recommended. Stuart connected Eric to us. He was doing media creation at an agency that helped like TikTok people create content for TikTok using AI. Great. We have a lot of social media advisors use social media to sell. So we launched, very exciting. I'll be the first to tell you, we launched Fora Labs. Google also has Google Labs. Our icon is it's a Erlenmeyer flask or beaker, with like little bubbling water with airplanes flying out of it. We spent a while like using AI to make our icon. It's fun. We ended up with we went down a rabbit hole of like playing with the image generation tools just to make the icon of Fora Labs. But anyway, our first Fora Labs feature was called the Social Post Generator. That's very much Eric's like wheelhouse. And it looks at your past booking data as an advisor and suggests, like advisors do this stuff on social media where they post things like just booked here. And I follow a lot of our advisors on Instagram and I'm watching all this and I'm like FOMO. I want to go here. I want to go here. It works. Or deal here. It works. That's why people do deals. So we built this tool. It automatically, you could say, I want to show deals in a city or deals of this hotel brand, and it produces images that you can then, and you can adjust in the tool. You can adjust the text of the image. You can like make it look like your branding, and then you can download the images. It pulls the images from our vast library of supplier images and destination images, and then and deals, obviously. So the deals that we talked about before, like scraping all those deals is a big part of this. So integration to knowing your past booking history is a big part of this. You download the images and then you can turn it into a reel or a slideshow, or whatever you want, TikTok or Instagram. You can download it in different formats for the different social media platforms, like formats meaning like, square or different aspect ratios. So advisors pointed out, first of all, I thought this was going to be mildly interesting to people. The feedback we got from advisors, we just launched this maybe 2-3 weeks ago, was enormous. People were like, so hesitant to do this. This is like so easy. It just gets me going. The feedback we got was like, can it do this? And can it do this? And can I do this? And can it do this? It's just like a fire hose of ideas. And so we're like, okay, great, Eric. Like we know what you're doing the rest of the quarter. Social Post Generator V1.1 to, V4. And one of the things that it was doing though is, so we said, you need to look at this stuff very carefully to make sure it's accurate. So I don't know where it got this idea from, but it was somebody showed images that they had downloaded where it was talking about the rooftop infinity pool for hotels that like clearly didn't have a rooftop infinity pool. So this was kind of hilarious. So I think the answer to your question, when the AI needs to be accurate, there's ways to do it where you can build checkers in the process, and whether that's other AI looking at the output of the AI to check it, and you can get pretty close to being 100% accurate. Or you just build human in the loop review, where, for reconciliation, for example, we have to be accurate there. So we can say, okay, I know that this is this, but for anything less than a certain confidence threshold, like I need you to actually look at it, or you can have like sub-agent processes kick off and try to like do some investigation. That needs to be accurate. So you can build those systems in a way to be 100% accurate. And then on the Gen AI side, it's like, hey, advisor, you need to just read this to make sure it's good. That's usually enough for now.
Yeah. Well, clearly, a lot of people are going to be attracted to Fora, given the way you are embracing AI and even the way that you highlighted the fact that you guys are figuring out as you go, right? And it's like, but you're embracing this, and so that is a place that many people want to work, to do their best work, to bring and also to be able to do really innovative things. So, talking about the team and the culture and the fact, you are building for scale, you obviously have to have the right team and the right people on each of those pods that are going to be flexible and that are going to be able to embrace innovation, rapid change, and also be responding to what you're hearing from your travel advisors on how they want to see you improve the platform. So knowing that you've got a long list of probably outstanding requests, the things you're like looking at your roadmap and your pipeline as you add more product. But when we think about talent and the organizational structure where you guys are now, how are you preparing for this growth in 2026? And specifically, what roles are you trying to hire for? Because a lot of these people are in great demand.
Yeah, it's a good question. I will just say one thing. I just switched laptops and I had to re-sticker my laptop. I like stickers, and my new favorite one is it's on the roadmap sticker. This has become a kind of joke. And I tell her, they're like, Jake, you just tell us it's on the roadmap. And I'm like, yeah, I sort of do that, but it's really on the roadmap. Like just, I don't know when on the roadmap, but everything ends up on the roadmap to some degree, unless they're an occasional bad idea. But so I don't actually remember exactly how many engineers we are right now, but let's call it 50 something. We're hiring, our budget for this year is to hire 55 more engineers in New York in person. So if you're hearing this and you are a front end, back end, full stack software engineer with some experience, and you want to work in a great in-office culture, hybrid, like 3-4 days a week, depending on how far away you are from the office, please apply foratravel.com/careers. That's, a pretty significant hill to climb, 55. I don't know if we'll get there or not. I think when we think about this, like, okay, AI will make our engineers more efficient. It already is. We still are going to need all those people because we're dealing with stuff that is just left and right. There's so much work to do. So that's, I think where the leverage comes from AI is like, okay, product managers can be twice as effective in how they're writing product requirements and directing. So this like ratios that existed of, 1 PM for a pod of 8 engineers, maybe it's like 1 PM can actually oversee like 2 pods of engineers. And so I don't know where that's going to end up, but I'm not so worried about it. We're hiring a few more PMs. We're hiring people to do product ops, like things don't operate themselves to some degree, and support. So we do have a very, this is another area we use AI. We use Intercom and we use Fin, their AI product. And we just, our director of product ops and support was just on a panel last night at a Fin hosted event in New York. And their average like Fin, assisted AI completion rate on tickets is like in the 60%. We must be their best case study. We're at like 89%. We only launched that recently. So we're hiring for that team. We're hiring to build out like people with specialty in travel around various things like our groups and crews and international markets and tour operator businesses. There's room to grow there. We need some designers. So product designers, if you're an excellent product designer and you want to work on our team, we have a great product design team built out by Alex Daniels, our head of product design, who's also reports to me. We would love to have you join. And we're hiring, engineers with more of a focus on data science. We need more AI innovators. We're hiring a PM that's specifically looking at our data on Shayna's team. We need engineers to work on our finance pod. Some people love that. Some people don't want to do that work. I actually think it's quite exciting. There's a lot of fintech in New York, so I think we're going to be more vocal about finding engineers that have come from like the many great fintech startups that are in New York that are at sort of a curve where people are a growth curve where people are ready to look for new things. We don't hire people on the engineering side straight out of university. We hire more experience. Like you need to have some number of years of work. It's just this sort of how we figured out that it works best for us, where people are sort of already semi-fully formed, capable engineers. We do need more engineering managers. This is a job that is hard to hire for. So if you're a great engineering manager, we would like to talk to you. What else are we hiring for? We're hiring a lot of people. We just expanded our office. All of our jobs are on our website. I'm trying to think. I know I'm not thinking about something that I'm going to regret not saying.
You mentioned two things that I'm sure perked people's ears up. One is the in-office culture, so in-office environment, and you've leaned into that, which I'm assuming is a very intentional choice, but also the location. So I want to ask you about both of these together because I thought it was really interesting when you mentioned those. Clearly, I love New York City. I'm so happy to be here. A lot of your team members that I know, I was asking them, how they get to work, and they're like, oh, it's a 10-minute walk or it's a 20-minute subway ride. Like it's like, and there's obviously a lot of talent in this city. There's a lot of great universities and colleges where people would have graduated from, and they're in New York City because they want to do their best work and have these types of opportunities. I know that speaking from someone who's based in Toronto, that's one of the things I love about the city of Toronto is it attracts A-type talent that people actually, they want to work for great companies and be able to do something that to really contribute. And I also do think there's more of an East Coast phenomenon to the West Coast, having lived in Orange County in terms of like work-life balance, is that actually, people on the East Coast definitely live to work more than work to live. But at a certain stage of life, and if you love what you're doing, like I do, and most oftentimes it's like I thrive when I'm just like, I'm not fixated on the work-life balance. I'm just really enjoying the work that I'm doing because you're committed to a mission. And I think that's more of an East Coast phenomenon. But what I want to ask you about is the in-person, because we've had rail bookers. We did a spotlight episode with them. They are very intentionally home-based. We talked about the fact that like 95% of companies are now back working in office again. And so there has been a difficult transition for some people if they wanted to kind of remain remote. I've always worked in offices. It's always been my reality growing up and in my career. And I thrive in an in-office environment. You get to network with other people, you get to learn. And some people have said, this next generation, if they work remotely, they're not going to have the access to advancement because their bosses are not going to be able to see them in such a way and give them the mentorship that you can have remote. So I see many benefits to both different scenarios depending on the company and culture. But my specific question for you, Jake, is, the in-office culture, obviously I'm assuming that's a very intentional choice. And then how do you see New York City from a competitive advantage point of view for Fora?
Yeah, great. These are great questions. And, personally, I grew up as a consultant. So I was a remote worker to some extent, before this was like a real thing. It was a little bit easier before Zoom because you could, be on conference calls. I mean, I've spent hours and hours on like old school conference calls, with like all the jokes about like people beeping in, and the young people don't really appreciate this anymore. It's like, with my BlackBerry traveling the world. And so it was always, I loved going to clients. Like you'd go to a client and then, on Friday I'd be in my home office and like see people. And, part of that was like the tech wasn't as good. So like you had to, like if you wanted to see people, you really had to see them in person. I think that was incredibly valuable, like working alongside people. Also, we were also more focused because we weren't online. Like you had to dial up to like connect your email, and then we could look at a deck and sit there together and look at it without, notifications and distractions. But, being in person, like I led this project at Walgreens for their photo department. I'm like, I don't know how old I was. I guess it was probably 25. And people could see that I was young, and I'm like presenting to like C-level executives of Walgreens in person. Like that kind of experience, I just think you need to have these kind of in-person experiences. It also just makes it a lot more real. But I've always worked with remote engineers. I mean, my second consulting job was working at Infosys in like 2004 to 2008. We built a strategy consulting group in the US, and I was the 21st person in that group, the youngest person on that team in the strategy group. And Infosys at the time was 20,000 people. When I left Infosys in 2008, the whole group was like 110,000 people. And it was insane that the sort of Thomas Friedman world is flat kind of era that really grew up, like exploded in that time. And it's still like, just so seeing this, like, in person mattered so much. Like we'd spend so much time in the evening getting to know our colleagues at dinners and just interacting with people as humans. And so I think when we set about building this company, there was just it wasn't even like it was a conscious choice, but there was no alternative. Like we weren't going to be a remote company. I do think if you want to build a fully remote company, it can work. I think this hybrid thing doesn't work. You either have to be, and this is, my personal view, like a fully remote company and everyone is remote. You have norms around how that works. And then you gather in person at these offsites or retreats, which if you're a fully remote company, we are very happy to help you book your corporate retreats. Just contact me. Always be selling travel. But and New York is a great place. Like people want to come to the office. So we're hiring. And I actually didn't think when we were going to do this, the engineering team would all be here. And Yossi got here about just before our end of our first year. I was like, we're going to do it. We're going to build an in-person New York culture. I said, okay, let's do it. And one by one, we started building this amazing engineering team. And now I sit around with a bunch of new joiners every month at our new joiner lunch. And we're like, why did you come here? And they're like, the people. And so we hear recruiters tell us all the time, it would be easier if you could allow remote engineers to work here. And we're like, yes, this would be easier. It's also very simple. If you don't want to be in person, like drop out of the funnel, boom. Now we don't have you in the funnel. We can focus on the people that want to be in the office. And everyone that comes here on our team, we haven't had a problem. I mean, knock on wood / fingers crossed. We has chosen to be in person. Now, do you need to be in person every day? I definitely, as a consultant, enjoyed those because you weren't on camera, but I like wake up in the morning when I was a 25, 6-year-old, like after a late Thursday night and sit down and be on conference calls and at my computer all day, like in my boxers, never getting dressed, like in my apartment, and then be like, oh, it's 6 p.m. I got to get ready to go out on a Friday night. Like I'd had many of those days. Or I could like fly to Miami where one of my closest friends lived for the weekend and sit at his pool and like sit with I remember there was a day where I had like my feet in the edge of his pool on my BlackBerry all day, on these global conference calls with people from India and people all over the world doing my work with my laptop, like at the pool. And the other people at the pool worked in like nightlife. So they didn't really have anything to do during the day. So there was like me and this like weird crowd of people at the pool. I was very productive at those times. So I can see just how productive all the engineers are because you can see the code. That's one bit of work. It's easy to sort of monitor what people are doing. I also trust our team immensely. So I'm not like worried. We don't hire people that we don't trust. So people can be remote a little bit. I don't mind that. And we do encourage people because we're in travel to go take remote weeks and go work remotely. Like go spend a week with our hotel partners in France and work. Like you still have to be involved in the New York office hours and like get to your meetings. But I do think this in-person culture just makes it really like you look people in the eye, you have these meetings. It is a balance of like how what do you do? Because people are sick. So it's like, you don't want people to come into the office. So now like one person in a meeting is not there. So what we did do is when we got this office, we were like, we're going to have best in class in conference room Zoom technology to make it really immersive. So we spent an ungodly amount of money. I mean, like, I can't, like this Logitech stuff that we have for the Zoom meetings is so expensive. So we found a partner. They built out these amazing conference rooms. You can hear everyone on Zoom. It works well. It's the best you can get for Zoom, except for I've been in the Google office where like it's kind of, they have Meet and these huge screens. It's really, that's better. But this is without spending $100,000 per conference room, the $20,000 per conference room solution. This is pretty good. So, we deal with that. And often we're on phone calls with partners that are all over the world anyways, and our advisors, which are everywhere. So there is a lot of Zoom interaction, but it is just really nice being in person, especially for the founders, as you mentioned, like Evan Henley and I can just sit and we just have these like little interactions. We also text all the time. We have our little founder chat that's just, like nonstop. We come in on Monday. It's like, oh, I've been talking to you all weekend. But, and then actually sometimes we're in the office. We're like ships passing. We don't even see each other because we're all in meetings, but it's just great. And so we're going to continue. We're not changing. We have a couple people that are not here. Our head of flights is not here. That's a very specific role. We have one designer that's not here that worked with our head of designer. These like one-off things work, but with there's no other real exceptions made to this in-office culture.
And then New York City itself.
Oh, why New York?
Based, for travel.
Yeah, so New York is great because, it's the same reason why my wife and I like living here. She's French, and like we get to see a lot of our French friends because they're passing through New York. People pass through New York. So the entire travel industry passes through New York. So it's almost overwhelming. Like every night you could go out with a hotel that's here, or a cruise partner or something. So, this week we have this Italian intensive. There's an Italian, True is here next week. And so some people came early and we're doing a Fora advisor 2-day, like Italy training here in New York, and suppliers are here. Suppliers show up because they're here. We also have a ton of hotel partners already here. So we see them on a regular basis, and all the major road shows pass through here. So, Corrido Hotels, their road show was last week. JMac, his rep company, his hotel shows were last week. I just RSVP'd for the new IHG or the IHG like luxury portfolio thing that's happening in in March. LHW is here. Like everyone comes to New York. So we have this opportunity to see our hotel partners without having to go anywhere, which is really a benefit. Like and we hear this from advisors in our community, if they're in a second tier city, they don't get to see as many hotel partners. But we do have these chapters, Fora community chapters in all these places that are trying. And one of the things we're going to do is try to organize more events in places where hotels do not go to say like, hey, we have 50 high producing Fora advisors in pick a city like Denver. So maybe you should consider going there. If you go there, we'll co-produce an event with you to try and bring more volume there. So this is the benefit though of New York. There's a ton of people and people walk to the office. We have the other thing that's kind of fun is people come to Fora HQ from all different backgrounds. It's more than any other place. We have people from different walks of life. It's a real set of diverse people from in every sort of category, obviously like nationality, gender, race, religion, sexuality, but like also just other ways like background and kind of like interests and college degree majors and stuff like that. So it creates this really rich environment here that I don't think you get in other places.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the timing was perfect for me to meet with you and be here this week because for exactly your reason.
Because of the blizzard.
Well, yeah, that's coming up, but I'm Canadian, so I'm looking forward to that actually. But there's the IMM Trav Media Conference on here. What was the New York Times Travel Show is always like, now it's the Adventure Travel Show. Skift obviously is based here as well. They run their Skift Global Forum. I love coming to New York City, and I love that actually there is all of these travel industry events here. So it's perfect timing for me coming to town this week, looking forward to seeing you and then coming to the office. And so clearly I get that New York, and many people may not even realize that, but just what a hub it is for the travel industry. And then the other thing, when we think about this industry going forward, given that you've got yourself, in a prime position geographically, but also as you look to expand this business, there's globally, obviously you're like, one of the world's greatest cities to be based in, to grow this company. But when we look forward, Jake, I've got a few more questions I want to ask you. And specifically, I want to talk about what your vision like for 2030, because 2030 is coming up close. So when I think about the next few years, it really is, 2030. You've talked about, doing $1.5 billion in revenue. There's $100 billion opportunity. You clearly, and the rest of the founding team see this as a opportunity for life. You guys are like, so it's not, you're not looking for a fast exit here. So you clearly have an even longer term view. So I guess my question is more in like in a medium term. So like we've talked about some of the big developments for 2026. If where would you like the business to get to by 2030? What is kind of the next few years looks like for Fora?
This is a very interesting question. I mean, it's easy to sort of know where we're going to be at the end of this year, or where we plan to be. And it's sort of easy to paint this like 10-year vision. It's hard to know exactly like where we'll be in 4 years, because I think when I look at, so 4 years would sort of like, I guess 26 is 4 more years. So it's sort of like double the age of our company. And if you look at what we did in the last 4 years and you sort of like extrapolate that forward, it's hard to imagine the curve. If you sort of, if you think about it exponentially, because it's how it will happen, hopefully. So I do think, I think AI is going to be a part of our daily lives like much faster than we realize, both from a personal productivity standpoint and like just, changing the way we work. It's really hard to imagine what that looks like. I have a hard time myself even as an imaginer. Like I just don't understand yet how it's going to do all this stuff in theory for me. Like how's it going to do my taxes for me in 2 seconds? Like that'd be nice. As I start, getting all these emails with like my tax documents that I need to go download, I'm thinking about like, could I use Claude Desktop to like organize this for me?
I was just going to rephrase it slightly because to be more like, I'll fix this on the edit. Is what success looks like in 4 years. So like as your growth trajectory, what are some of take us through the success metrics for 26 and where you think you'll be, what success looks like 4 years from now?
Yeah. I don't have the exact numbers because I haven't looked at our like budget for where this gets to in terms of how much travel we sell. Like, I know the 10-year number we want to hit, but I don't know what that looks like 4 years out. But I think from success, it's really like we're able to fundamentally change I think there's two things that have to be true that aren't true now. One is we will be the evolution of our the advisor client interaction will be significantly different. So with the client booking platform and bookable quote are just the very beginning and our interactive itineraries and things like this, but there will be a really different way. So this idea that advisors and travelers co-create travel experiences together using the platform that we build for them, like we launched a mobile app last year also, like I didn't even mention that, in like an app or something like this. And they're really like co-creators of this journey. And you have this like kind of like personal fitness coach, kind of like travel advisor that's like helping you make your decisions. Like I think this will become a reality. The other thing, and this all gets back to this sort of a better equation in travel. So the tooling for advisors will be significantly better, but like what will be new is really things on that axis, like the advisor client axis. But then we will have portals for our, so this notion of being a distribution channel for our supplier partners will become a reality in a much more serious way. So right now we sort of are takers of what's given to us. Like we're takers of the preferred partner rates. We're takers of the deals that are out there. We just sort of, not in a greedy way, we're like selling them. We're taking these offers that everyone can have access to if you're a member of the preferred partner program or like you're a B2B seller, and we package them up and do things and we get them available to our advisors to sell to clients. Hopefully will become such a big channel. It's sort of the way we think about this is not like we want to grow the advisor channel and almost make it so there's like a Fora channel. Like we are a scalable, it's like the advisor channel, but it's like slightly different, meaning that it's more scalable. So if you're a hotelier and you wake up on Tuesday and you're looking at your numbers and you're like, oh, I got some cancellations. My Saturday is soft. You're like, okay, I might go on Expedia and just like turn some dials and knobs and like fill that. Or you could come to Fora and say, I need 3 more rooms sold on Saturday. Do it. And we'll say, great, and we can do it. And there's like an acceptable cost for that. Now, one way would be that they pick how they want to do it. Like kind of like, okay, we're going to offer enhanced commission, or we're going to offer, we don't want to touch our ADR. So we'll offer like a huge extended dining credit because we have an on-site restaurant. And we'll get the person in, we'll give them a free dinner essentially, or half of a free dinner, which, ends up benefiting us because then they're going to buy stuff and we can make a lot of margin on our F&B, and a free Sunday night because like people don't stay Sunday nights, for weekend getaways from New York. And then let's say it's a New York hotel and that's Tuesday, but like it's Tuesday. So we need to get that. I can't like send an email and then have advisors like think about it. I need to get that offer to clients now. How do you create that pipeline where a hotelier could upload this thing? We could say, that offer is relevant to all these clients. All those clients have these advisors, and we can actually pipeline that offer to them very quickly. And they could know by Wednesday morning that they have this offer available to make a decision about what they're doing that weekend. Like that is the stuff I would like to build. And then the ideal would be kind of more like this AdWords. We get requests from our hotel partners all the time. Hey, we need some help with this property. Like we have some amount of money we want to spend. Like, what can we do? And it's like a webinar. Like the tactics are the old tactics. An email. I'm thinking like, okay, we need some new tools here. And the tools could look like specific things like they could pick from, or they could be more general, like actually kind of AdWords style. So imagine a hotel goes, I want to spend $10,000 and acquire, I don't know, some number of new people at my hotel. And we go, we can solve that for you. Let us optimize it. And we actually will like tell you what the cost per new person is in the end, or you can set it like a threshold you don't want to go above. But that's how you do AdWords or, advertising on Instagram. How come hotels aren't thinking about it that way? And I think that's where I think the sophistication will get to. And I want to be the company that helps build that technology and platform out. And I think the OTAs will do that stuff too, but it's a very different model where you have the human in the loop. And this gets into this other thing we talked about, where if you sort of have this like world of AI maximization where AI is doing everything for you, like just imagine the future in 2030 where like you have nothing left to do because AI has done everything for you. Let's be a little bit provocative about it. Like you literally have nothing left to do. You're just going to dinner parties. What are you doing at those dinner parties? You're talking with people about what? What are you talking about? Travel, food, like, I don't know, a movie you saw, TV show recommendations, your kids. So like travel is one of these things that everyone talks about. So it's a very human thing. And I imagine that a lot of these people will decide to be travel advisors, to be a part of that ecosystem and help people connect Not everyone wants to be someone selling travel. So like the people who want to do it will be able to do it, and they'll be able to sell to their network of people that they know travel.
Well, and that's like the question I want to close off our discussion with is exactly along those lines, because when you talk about getting offers in front of travel advisors for the rest of the old school industry out there that came into the to this world pre-internet, we also know that most of these offers were being sent by fax. Like a fax machine was actually the main way to get those offers out, and companies were having their team members design like a design what is basically a flyer and sending flyers over faxes, and those travel advisors were getting them on the fax machine, pinning them up in their in the kitchen where they'd be having lunch, so you could see the different offers and they would be talking about it. And even the trade media was so print focused, and know those publications, the weekly, Travel Weekly. There's a reason the names even is like it was a weekly publication of a synopsis of what was happening in the travel industry this week.
I used to read like PC Weekly though. I used to get this like delivered, as like a teenager to my home.
And this is where, oftentimes what's old is new again. And our industry, for all the advances in technology, it is a people-driven industry. To exactly your point, people are still talking to other people. And I've got a kind of a big, profound question I want to close on, but it ties everything together, which is, when you look to the future and think about the role of the travel advisor, what makes you most optimistic? And I ask that knowing everything we've discussed over the last 2 hours in this conversation, like how bright the future is from my perspective, and clearly from your perspective from travel advisors. But a lot of people start hearing about AI and how is it going to change, and we don't have all those answers yet. But what makes you so optimistic about the role of travel advisors going forward? And I just, the reason I caveat that when we look back is that many of the things that we still have in the industry, brochures and even like direct mail, and as you launch more luxurious products, the role of the travel advisor has continued to thrive, and all indications point to that continuing to be the case. But I'd love to hear why you're so optimistic, Jake.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I was just thinking about how to answer this. I think I think it comes back to the human piece of it for travel advisors, because when you look at what people are going for in travel, so there's a number of factors that sort of come together here. So one is what makes a great travel experience, and there's obviously a number of components to that, but I think travel is one of these things that can be amazing, or like still pretty good, and obviously bad. And what differentiates these kinds of trips is it's not necessarily the room product, it's the service. And the service is provided by people. And I do, I look at I'm from New England, Boston Robotics. It's Boston Robotics, right? The people that make the robots.
Yeah, the dog.
The dog, right? Okay, that's what I'm. Yeah, sorry.
Robotics.
Yeah, like the dog. Like,
why are we all trying to build dogs?
Yeah, it's like it's a cool kind of thing. Like, right. So, okay. So just like how I say to people, like, if you want an AI-proof job, be a chef, but not like a quick service restaurant chef, because I actually know people that have built salad robots. Luxury dining is still going to be, food is still going to be prepared by people, like at Michelin-starred restaurants to some degree. So there are certain things that cannot be replaced, and I think the hospitality aspect of travel is going to be provided by humans. And so actually there's this, and the humans are traveling, and so it makes sense to have a human travel advisor in this loop. I also think the psychology is, like, another example would be, there's many ways I can go online and get fit, like with apps, that will tell me exactly what exercises I need to do. I have a Peloton. It can tell me exactly what I need to do. There's many other things I get Instagram ads for, like Ladder and Better Men, and like there's other guys that have businesses selling kettlebell workout routines, and there's a little insight into like what Instagram is telling me to get rid of my dad bod, basically. But there's nothing that replaces the coach coming to your house, because there's a person that's going to be standing there at 6 o'clock in the morning. You need to be ready to exercise, and they're going to be making you exercise. And if you haven't done they're going to notice if you did not do anything between the last time they were there. Now, the instruction might even be worse, or not as good as like the best workout routine that you could find online, but it's because they are making you do it. So I see this with, I think all the travel advisors will have this where the client's like, I want to go to Italy again. And you're like, okay, great. Like I'll quote you Italy, but I also just want to point out that you could go to 5 other places. Nothing against Italy, because one of the things I want to do in life every day is like go more to Italy. But I also, think that there's a time and a place for going other places. And so the travel advisor can be this kind of like friend who knows you, that prompts you. And I do think that even though AI will probably be able to get to the point of being able to not give you exactly what you want, but also tell you the other things that you're not thinking about. Like, there's a human element where you just kind of want to chat about it with another human and take with their advice. So, and I think this gets back to this AI maximization world, is like, as all this stuff becomes more like, we're going to talk to machines a lot more. So I think there's going to be joy in talking to humans around certain things. And I think travel will be one of those things. So I get very excited about the role of travel, like entrepreneurs, travel advisors, people selling travel. It's just a sort of human thing to do. I do think it needs to be empowered, and it needs to be more people doing it. And the people doing it can be doing a lot more of it. And I think this will become I guess my vision would be like maybe 80% of travel is sold through a travel advisor in the future. Let's see where we are. We'll have a podcast in 20 years and we'll see if we're there.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that Jake and I have been talking about through 2026 and beyond is to actually have regular check-ins on these types of conversations. I'm sure many people are going to be interested to see how the conversation evolves, and also the roadmap and some of the major developments that Fora has on. But I just wanted to finish on this particular point, because when I close out any of my keynotes, like I did at World Travel Market, I gave like the top 6 AI trends for 2026. And the first 5 were all around the areas about, earned media and optimizing for AI and voice, voice, actually the whole trend of voice that, as a species, we were never really intended to sit down and type on keyboards. I mean, the whole idea of a QWERTY keyboard, and you have a computer science degree, which we refer to as a CS. One of the things that, in my computer science classes, and when we learned about the QWERTY keyboard, it was designed to slow us down. It's, it was designed for typewriters, and we kind of got stuck with it. And so when we think about how this industry is going to evolve, I'm incredibly, I think it has a very bright future. I'm very bullish for a number of reasons. And the reason as it relates to AI is I think in a world that is going to be AI saturated, and it's coming, and in some ways it's already here, trust and authenticity will win. And I think one of the things that I want to make sure that as an outcome of this discussion today is that any organization is listening to our conversation and looking at AI and trying to understand this world of travel advisors is that don't lose the human touch. The human touch is actually what's going to be your moat. It's going to be what is your competitive advantage, is the relationships that you've built, that people trust you on their recommendation. And it's this AI generated content is actually going to get worse like that, because it's going to become much more generic. So if you can embed more authenticity, unique voices, local knowledge, and trust signals, we are so wired to trust one another. It's like why we use sites like TripAdvisor, is that throughout human history, other people give us shortcuts, and that actually helps us advance. And those shortcuts are having someone that you can trust and rely on that is a human that can actually understand your perspective and curate experiences that ultimately will give you a great emotional experience. And I think more and more we're going to want to enter the world. And that's why I've coined this year as a year of transformational travel. It's been building for many years, but people are seeking travel and the types of companies they embrace, which is why I was excited you have experiences. And I know you highlighted, Jake, that, some of the integration is still to come, but those businesses, G Adventures, Intrepid, those are billion-dollar companies now. There were $100 million companies only a few years ago. So when travel advisors are looking at the types of product their clients are asking for, one of the things I would definitely encourage everyone to pay attention to is transformative travel and people having these incredible experiences in destination. And we're starting to see travel companies kind of present themselves with sort of an anti-AI element, because the fact is, you have a truly human experience in destination. All of your senses are heightened. I'm here in New York City, and I just, that buzz that you feel, and I'm going to have a weekend in New York City. My wife's flown in. We're going to stay at the Peninsula Hotel. We're going to have and for me, after a busy week of work, this is the joy of travel. And that came from a travel advisor who recommended it, who's put something together.
How did you book your hotel? What are you talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Fora. I had a Fora advisor.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
My Fora advisor strongly encouraged the Peninsula. There was a deal that they had, and there was a hotel credit that I now have access to, which now I'm going to be mindful of how much I spend over the credit. But no, it came from a travel advisor. It was the recommendation. So it was like, you want a perfect weekend in New York? You need to stay at the Peninsula. This is what you're going to do. You're going to have to, and you need to experience the hotel. That was something I was not just a place to stay. It's a real destination.
Yeah, destinations in and of themselves. Like I mean, I would love to staycation my way around New York City.
Yeah.
Like I have a long list of places that I would love to go. I did staycation right across the street is the Four Seasons New York downtown. And before Thomas, the former, who used to work there, he's longtime friends with Henley. So I did my wife was like, you could just go do a little staycation there. And oh man, that was nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like lying in bed and I'm like, I'm just going to stay in bed here.
Exactly. Well, there was that term that came out this last year of Herkelderkling. And Herkelderkling is a Scottish term, but
I have not heard this.
Herkelderkling was one of the trends of 2025, where people just basically spend the entire day in their hotel room, like laying in bed, like bed rotting, as my daughter would call it. But for people like us working on our laptops or like, you're getting work done, but intermixing it with a Netflix show and just like, I'm just going to work in my room all day. And some hotels have had to adjust to that trend to try and encourage people to come and stay at their hotel, knowing that they're going to be this mixture of business and pleasure. And the last thing I wanted to say on this, the keynote speaker at the conference I was at this week, a guy named Doug Shapiro, who brought his expertise in data. He did a presentation on agentic AI. And the final slide he had was the good news: authentic human experiences will be more valuable than ever. And it resonated with me because that's how I close out my presentations, because I truly believe that's to be the case. So I'm very optimistic for the future of travel and the role that Fora will play in that. And so I know many people would have already been familiar with you, Jake, on our podcast, and also to an extent with Fora, but I'm sure many people have just come to hear about Fora for the first time, understand more about you. I want to make sure that everyone knows the best ways to connect with you guys. I will be doing an outro of this, but I want to make sure, in your words, how would you suggest that people reach out to connect with you for opportunities to collaborate, join the organization, or for people to become advisors?
Sure. So I guess there's sort of four ways. If you want to travel with an advisor and you do not have one already, you can come to our website, foratravel.com, and we have a nice form you can fill out. It's a nice interactive form. This will go. We look at these and we actually will help you match with one of our top advisors based on how you answer the form. So this is our client lead program. I should plug this as well. Like for advisors, we have a very big client lead program business. If you're a pro, we have different levels of advisors. So if you're in our top two levels, you get access to this and you can sort of like, you don't bid, but you like kind of express interest in different leads that come in based on what you're interested in. And then if we decide to give that to you on a sort of round robin fair situation, you get to work with that potential new client. So this works really well. We sell, single digit high millions of dollars a month of travel through the client lead program, and many clients, many advisors have found meaningful lifetime clients through this thing. So if you're a traveler and you want to work with an advisor, fill out that form. If you want to be a travel advisor, there's also a button on our homepage. Join us, fill out that form, and you will go into our membership team, and we'll talk to you. If you're a new advisor, we have ways for you to get all your questions answered. If you're an existing advisor and you want to come and learn about what it's like to move over to Fora, we can answer those questions. And we have case studies and whatever you want, we can help you with. If you are a partner, there's a partner with us button in our footer. Click on that. That will get you to our partners team. We probably already know you, but if there's a new partner, that's a great way to get in touch with us. And if you want to work here at HQ, we have a whole careers page. We would definitely like to talk to you. Come join our amazing HQ environment. What's cool is I don't know how many are out there now, but when we started recording, which was like, a year ago this morning, this is a long episode, there were at least 3 or so advisors in the New York area. We invite some of our top advisors into our office on Friday to come and hang out and have lunch and work. So I'm excited to go over there and see them. It's always great interacting with people from our community. Come join our in-office magic here in downtown New York.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. It's real. And I'm thrilled that I was had the opportunity to come in today. Obviously, it's always great to see you, Jake, but seeing you on, home court advantage in your natural environment where you come to every day, meeting the team. Obviously, it was fantastic to meet Evan and Henley and see Stephanie and Shayna and Olaf, who's your chief
of staff.
Chief of staff.
He's putting together, we're in our new emerging, this is by the way, this is the first podcast ever recorded in our brand new podcast studio.
Yeah.
So let that be a record also, or
Well,
like a milestone.
It's an honor to have had that opportunity to come in and record this with you. I certainly looking forward to more collaborations, but ultimately I'm just excited for you and the team with the success, what you've accomplished and how bright the future is. So thank you for making this happen. And I wish you and the team every success in 2026 and going forward, Jake.
Thanks, Dan. And I hope you have a great weekend in New York.
Thanks so much to all of our listeners for joining us for this special Spotlight episode recorded live here in New York City at Fora's headquarters. It's been a real pleasure to get to meet the rest of the team, see Stephanie and Shayna again, and of course, meet Evan and Henley, the two other co-founders that Jake has talked about in this episode. I can't encourage you enough to check out foratravel.com if you want to become a partner, if you want to become a travel advisor, or if you want to join the amazing team here at Fora and what they're building for the future. As you heard from Jake, this is a company that did $1.5 billion last year, and the long-term future is a $100 billion business. It's really an exciting journey to follow. I look forward to coming back to New York, continuing to have conversations with Jake and the team. Thanks again to our listeners. I hope you enjoyed this special Spotlight episode on Fora Travel. And don't forget, we do post clips and highlights on our social channels, which you can find at Travel Trends Podcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Until next time, safe travels.